The FTL jump should have been routine, calculated, executed, completed. 3 seconds of non-existence between one patch of stars and another, fleeing the Cylon base star that had hounded them for 6 consecutive jumps. Commander Adama stood in Galactica's Combat Information Center, hands gripping the plotting table's edge, watching his crew execute the blind jump with the practiced efficiency of people who'd done this 100 times before. Lieutenant Gaeta called coordinates. Specialist Duala relayed to engineering. The ship's superstructure groaned as the FTL drive spun up, that familiar vibration running through deck plates and bulkheads. Adama felt it in his bones, the prelude to 3 seconds of nothing. But this time, the nothing screamed. The FTL field collapsed mid-transition. Not failed. Collapsed. The distinction mattered to the 1,000 souls experiencing it. Galactica's hull shrieked like a wounded animal as impossible forces twisted her frame. Conduits exploded across 3 decks. The lights died. Emergency lighting bathed the CIC in red hellglow. Officers were thrown from their stations. Adama held the table with both hands, feeling his ship, his daughter of steel and determination, being torn through something that shouldn't exist. When reality reasserted itself, nothing was right. Dradi's contact. Gaeta shouted, blood streaming from his temple. Multiple contacts, unknown configuration, bearing, frac, bearing everywhere. The holographic display flickered to life, showing Galactica floating in a star system that matched none of their charts. Behind them, the civilian fleet emerged in stuttering flashes, not all at once, but in scattered groupings across millions of kilometers. Colonial 1, the Tilium refinery ship, passenger vessels with thousands of refugees who'd already lost everything once. But they were incomplete. Adama's gut clenched. Ships were missing. Sit rep. His command voice cut through the chaos. FTL drive is offline, Gaeta reported, fingers dancing across his console. I mean offline, sir. Not damaged. The math doesn't work anymore. These stars, this space, it's like the laws of physics shifted 3 degrees left. Wireless is picking up transmissions, Duala added, adjusting her headset. Unknown language, unknown protocols. Wait, she paused, eyes widening. Sir, one transmission is in, it's in English. Old English. They're hailing us. Colonel Tai appeared at Adama's shoulder, eye patch stark in the emergency lighting, smelling faintly of the ambrosia he'd been nursing before the jump. It's a silent trick. Has to be. Contact is closing, Gaeta interrupted. Single vessel, unknown class. She's massive. Bigger than a base star. Configuration doesn't match any Colonial or Cylon design in the database. On the view screen, the approaching ship resolved from sensor ghost to visible reality. She was a warship, that much was clear, angular, aggressive, bristling with weapons turrets. But her design spoke of different engineering principles, different wars. 2 large pods flanked her hull, and her bow swept forward in a predatory curve. Text emblazoned her hull in letters Adama could read despite the impossible distance, Prometheus. Prometheus, Adama whispered. The name from Earth mythology, his Earth, the lost colony's ancestral home that existed only in religious texts and half-remembered stories. The planet humanity had supposedly fled 3,000 years ago. The planet that was supposed to be a legend. Sir, they're transmitting again, Duala said. Audio only. Should I put it through? The voice that filled the CIC was human. American accent, military cadence, and utterly impossible, unidentified vessels. This is Colonel Lionel Pendergast of the Earth ship Prometheus. We've detected weapons discharge in this sector. Power down your weapons and identify yourselves immediately. This star system is under Earth protection. The silence in the CIC was absolute. 2,000 heartbeats suspended, waiting for their commander's reaction to words that couldn't be real. Tai leaned close. Bill, Earth doesn't exist. It's a myth Roslin's been selling to keep people from cutting their own throats. But Adama was watching the view screen, watching that massive warship holding position with the casual confidence of a force that didn't fear the unknown. Earth. They'd said Earth. After 50 billion dead, after running until running was all they knew, someone claiming to be from humanity's birthplace was extending, what? A welcome? A threat? Launch the alert Vipers, Adama ordered quietly. Have Apollo take the CAP. And get me President Roslin. He keyed the wireless himself, ancient training taking over. Prometheus, this is Commander William Adama of the Battlestar Galactica, Colonial Fleet. We are refugees. Our fleet requires immediate assistance. We have wounded, limited resources, and we are very far from home. The pause before response stretched like years. Galactica, did you say Colonial Fleet? The voice from Prometheus carried new weight, new confusion. Sir, that's... I'm going to need you to stand by. We're contacting Stargate Command. They're going to want to hear this directly. Stargate Command. Adama glanced at Ty, who shrugged with his whole body, the gesture of a man whose universe had already ended once and was learning it could end again in new and creative ways. Yes, sir, Prometheus continued. Welcome to the Milky Way galaxy. Welcome to Earth's neighborhood. And Commander Adama, the voice carried something like wonder now, like a man witnessing myth made manifest. We have a lot to talk about. In the back of the CIC, Dr. Gaius Baltar stood frozen at his science station, his mind racing through implications while Head 6, the vision of a Cylon who existed only in his fractured psyche, whispered in his ear with her usual cryptic certainty, not your Earth, Gaius. Not the Earth you're looking for. But an Earth nonetheless. And they have technology. Oh, the technology they have. Adama looked at the civilian fleet scattered across his sensors, at his damaged ship, at the impossible vessel claiming to represent Earth, and made the choice that commanders made when all other options had burned away, all batteries hold fire. Duala, open a channel to the fleet. Tell them to maintain formation and await instructions. Gata, I want every sensor we have working on analyzing that ship and this star system. He straightened, 60 years of military bearing settling into place like armor. And someone find President Roslin. Tell her Earth just called. And they want to talk. Outside Galactica's hull, in the darkness of an alien star system 13 million light-years from the 12 colonies, Viper pilots launched from their tubes into an unknown sky, flying combat air patrol against threats they couldn't name in a galaxy they'd never seen. Behind them, 50,000 refugees who'd already lost one world prepared to discover what this new universe would demand from them. The Stargate awaited, though they didn't know its name yet. Ancient technology watched through sensors the Colonials couldn't detect. And in the shadows of Goa'uld space, a Jaffa patrol was already reporting the arrival of unknown vessels to masters who collected humans and powerful ships with equal hunger. The gate would activate soon. Chevron by chevron, it would lock onto coordinates in a network spanning galaxies. And when it did, Galactica's crew would learn that the universe held horrors that made Cylons look like practice. If you want to see more characters enter different universes, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and the universe you'd want to see them in down in the comments below. Indeed. But first, Commander Adama had to keep his people alive long enough to learn the rules of this new game. Starting with understanding what Stargate Command meant, and why the ship called Prometheus treated the appearance of a colonial battlestar like encountering a ghost from humanity's distant past. The journey to find Earth had ended. The journey to survive Earth's universe had just begun. The meeting room aboard Prometheus was too clean. That was the first thing Colonel Saul Ty noticed, the sterile perfection of walls that had never been scorched by fire, corridors that didn't bear the scars of decades of combat repairs, a ship that felt like it had rolled out of drydock yesterday instead of serving as humanity's last desperate shield. It made his skin crawl. Or maybe that was withdrawal from the ambrosia he hadn't been able to bring aboard this too-perfect Earth vessel. Commander Adama sat across from Colonel Pendergast with the stillness of a man who'd learned to hide shock behind military bearing. President Laura Roslin occupied the chair beside him, her suit immaculate despite the chaos of their arrival, her hands folded calmly despite the tremor of illness that Ty knew she fought every waking moment. The cancer was winning. They all knew it. But she wore authority like armor anyway. "Let me make certain I understand," Adama said, his voice carrying the patient tone of someone repeating information that violated every law of physics he'd ever known. "Your Earth never developed faster-than-light travel. You instead discovered a network of ring-shaped devices built by an ancient alien race. These stargates create artificial wormholes that allow instant travel between thousands of planets." "Tens of thousands," Pendergast corrected. He was younger than Adama, mid-40s, with the easy confidence of someone who'd never watched his civilization burn. "The Stargate network spans multiple galaxies. The ancients, that's what we call the race that built them, seeded the technology millions of years ago." Ty snorted. "Sounds like a children's story." "So did Earth, 48 hours ago," Roslin interjected smoothly. Her eyes never left Pendergast's face, reading him the way she'd read political opponents back when politics mattered. "Yet here we are. Colonel, you've explained the mechanism. Now explain why you're treating our arrival like we're ghosts." Pendergast exchanged glances with the woman at his side, Major Samantha Carter, introduced as Prometheus's chief science officer and apparently some kind of genius physicist. She'd been studying Galactica's basic technical readouts like they were holy texts. "Because according to our records," Carter said, "the 12 colonies shouldn't exist." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. "I'm sorry." Adama's voice could have cut steel. Carter pulled up a holographic display, technology that made Ty's trigger finger itch because it looked too much like Cylon interfaces, and showed a star map. "We've explored a significant portion of the Milky Way galaxy through the Stargate network. We've encountered thousands of human civilizations, most of them seeded from Earth by an alien race called the Goa'uld approximately 10,000 years ago." She highlighted sections of the map. "But we've never encountered any evidence of a civilization matching your description. No 12 colonies. No colonial fleet. No records in ancient databases of a human civilization achieving your level of technological sophistication in any region we can access." "That's impossible," Ty said flatly. "We have 3,000 years of recorded history." "In a different galaxy," Carter said gently. "Commander, the energy signature we detected when you arrived was unlike anything in our database. It wasn't a normal hyperspace window. It was more like a dimensional translation. I think your FTL drive punched through from a parallel reality or an entirely separate universe." Silence. The kind that preceded either violence or surrender. Roslin spoke first, her politician's instinct finding the path through impossible news. "You're saying we're not in our own universe anymore." "I'm saying it's the most logical explanation for why your star charts don't match, why your FTL physics don't work here, and why we've never encountered evidence of the colonies despite extensive exploration." Carter's expression was sympathetic. Professional, but sympathetic. "I'm sorry. I know that's not what you wanted to hear." Adama stood, his chair scraping against the deck. He walked to the viewport, staring out at Galactica floating 3 kilometers away, surrounded by the scattered civilian fleet. 2,000 military personnel. 48,000 refugees. All of them just discovering they'd been torn from their own reality entirely. "The Cylons," Adama said quietly. "Our enemy. Machines we built that rebelled. They destroyed our worlds. Can they follow us here?" "We don't know," Pendergast admitted. "If they use the same FTL principle you do, probably not. Different universal physics. But Commander, I need to be honest with you, you've got bigger problems than whether your old enemies can follow." Ty stood as well, his hand instinctively reaching for a hip flask that wasn't there. What could be bigger than genocidal machines? Parasitic aliens that take humans as hosts and enslave entire civilizations while pretending to be gods, Pendergast said. The Goa'uld. They controlled this galaxy for thousands of years. We've beaten them back, mostly, but remnants remain. And they're going to be very interested in a powerful warship that just appeared in their backyard. The viewport showed Galactica's launch tubes cycling, Vipers on continuous patrol despite the fuel expenditure they couldn't afford. Adama watched them with a father's eye, each pilot a son or daughter under his protection, each fighter a promise he'd made to get them home. But home didn't exist anymore. Not in this universe. There's more, Carter added. A new threat emerged recently. The Ori. They're ascended beings, higher dimensional entities, conducting a religious crusade across the galaxy. They have ships more advanced than anything we can field. They convert or destroy entire civilizations, and they're heading this way. Roslin's laugh was brittle. So we fled the Cylons through however many dimensions of space only to arrive in time for someone else's apocalypse. The gods have a sense of humor. With respect, ma'am, we don't believe the Ori are gods, Pendergast said. Just very powerful aliens. Same as the Goa'uld pretending to be Egyptian and Greek deities. We've built our entire defense strategy around proving false gods can bleed. Tell that to 50 billion dead Colonials, Ty muttered. We built our entire civilization around thinking machines couldn't want to exterminate us. How'd that work out? Adama turned from the viewport, and Ty saw the calculation happening behind those steady eyes. The math commanders did when choosing between bad options and worse ones. Our immediate concerns are practical. We need fuel, tilium, we call it. Water. Medical supplies. Ammunition. Parts. Our civilian fleet is running on prayers and spare parts. We've been running for months. Stargate Command can help, Pendergast said. We've got resource-rich planets accessible through the gate. Mining operations. Supply chains. But Commander, General Landry is going to want to meet you directly. He needs to assess the situation, and frankly, Washington is going to have questions about 50,000 refugees appearing out of nowhere. Washington, Roslin repeated. That's your capital. Like our Caprica city, but it survived. It survived a lot of things, Carter said. Including Goa'uld attacks, replicator invasions, and Ori bombardment. We're stubborn that way. Adama returned to his seat, and Ty recognized the shift in his posture, from shocked survivor to strategic commander. What do you need from us, Colonel? Because I'm getting the sense this isn't just a humanitarian rescue mission. Pendergast smiled slightly. You're right. General Landry will make the formal offer, but I'll give you the short version. You've got a Battlestar equipped with nuclear weapons, experienced military personnel, and combat capabilities that our initial scans suggest could be useful in the ongoing conflicts we face. We've got resources, technology, and knowledge of this galaxy. That's the basis for a mutually beneficial alliance. An alliance, Adama said. Not surrender. Not absorption into your command structure. The Colonial Fleet would maintain autonomy, Pendergast confirmed. But we'd operate as allied forces. Joint missions, shared intelligence, coordinated strategy against common threats. Ty leaned against the bulkhead, exhausted. What happens if we say no? If we take our ships and our people and try to find our own way in this galaxy? Carter's expression went carefully neutral. Then you'd be on your own in a galaxy full of hostile forces, with FTL drives that don't work, no resource base, no allies, and no knowledge of who's shooting at you or why. The Goa'uld would find you eventually. They always do. That's not much of a choice, Roslin observed. No ma'am, Pendergast agreed. But it's an honest one. We're not the Goa'uld. We don't conquer or enslave. But we do need allies, and you need friends. That's the situation. Adama looked at Roslin, and Ty watched the silent conversation between the military commander who'd lied about knowing where Earth was and the dying president who'd built hope from that lie. They'd led their people through hell on a promise. Now they had to lead them through truth. "We'll need to consult with our quorum of 12, Roslin said. "Our civilian government. I won't make this decision without their input." "Understood," Pendergast said. "General Landry is arranging transport to Earth through the Stargate. He wants to meet with your leadership directly, show you what we're offering." "The Stargate," Adama said slowly. "This ring device. You expect us to trust it? To step through?" "Sir, we use it every day," Carter said. "SG teams, that Stargate teams, travel to other planets for exploration, diplomacy, and defense missions. It's how we've survived. It's how we'll help you survive." Ty spoke the fear everyone was dancing around. "Sounds like a network. Computers talking to computers across the galaxy. We don't trust networks. Networks killed our worlds." "It's ancient technology," Carter explained. "Organic crystals, not digital computers. Nothing like what your Cylons would use." "And Commander," she met Adama's gaze directly. "I understand your caution. But the Stargate isn't the enemy. It's a tool. And right now, it's the tool that can get your people the resources they need to survive." Adama stood again, extending his hand to Pendergast. "We'll meet your General Landry. We'll see this Stargate command. But Colonel, understand something, I've already lost one world. I won't lose my fleet." Pendergast took his hand. "Then we'll make sure you don't have to. Welcome to Earth's war, Commander. So say we all." Adama's eyes widened fractionally at hearing the colonial prayer from an Earth officer's mouth. "How did you?" "We've been studying your initial transmissions," Carter admitted. "Learning what we can. If we're going to be allies, we should speak each other's languages." Outside, in the black between ships, a Raptor reconnaissance craft was completing its scan of the star system. In its cockpit, Lieutenant Sharon Boomer Valerie saw something on sensors that made her blood run cold, energy signatures that matched nothing in colonial databases, but triggered instincts she didn't understand. Instincts programmed into a body she didn't yet know wasn't entirely human. The Cylon sleeper agent hidden among Galactica's crew looked at those readings and wondered what secrets this new universe held. And whether the Cylon's god had guided them here for a purpose beyond her understanding. The Stargate stood in the heart of Cheyenne Mountain like an ancient oracle waiting to speak. Commander Adama stared at the massive ring of carved Naquata, watching technicians prepare the device for activation with practiced efficiency that spoke of routine rather than miracle. 28 feet of alien technology that apparently made the impossible, instant travel across galaxies, as commonplace as a Raptor flight between ships. He hated it on sight. "Magnificent, isn't it?" Dr. Gaius Baltar stood beside him in the observation gallery overlooking the gate room, his eyes gleaming with the fervor of a man who'd found a new god to worship. They'd brought a delegation: Adama, Ty, Roslin, Apollo, Starbuck, Chief Tyrol, and Baltar. Representatives of military, civilian, and scientific leadership. Laura had insisted on including Baltar despite Adama's reservations about the man's loyalty, his cowardice, his general existence. "It's a network," Adama said flatly. "A connected system that links thousands of worlds. The Cylons would have loved it." "The Cylons aren't here," Baltar countered, his fingers pressed against the observation window like a child at a zoo. "But this technology is. Do you understand what this represents? Instant transportation without the fuel expenditure of FTL drives, without the navigation calculations, without the ability to control where it goes or who comes through," Ty interrupted from Adama's other side. The XO had been twitchy since they'd arrived at Stargate Command, his one eye constantly scanning for threats, his hand never far from his sidearm. "That thing is a door to your home." "How many doors?" "Thousands. And anyone with the right address can just waltz into your living room?" "We have an Iris," Major Carter said from behind them. She'd been assigned as their liaison, their guide through this impossible facility buried 2 miles under a mountain. Titanium barrier 3 micrometers from the event horizon. Anything trying to come through without transmitting the proper code hits it at the molecular level. Total disintegration. Unless someone steals your codes, Ty said. Or hacks them. Or. "We're aware of the security concerns, Colonel," Carter said patiently. "We've been doing this for 9 years. The protocols work." Captain Lee, Apollo, Adama stood with Lieutenant Kara, Starbuck, Thrace, both pilots studying the gate room's layout with tactical eyes. Apollo saw defensive positions, firing lanes, the massive blast door that could seal the room. Starbuck saw something else. Her eyes tracked the chevrons around the gate's circumference, the way the inner ring rotated independently. "How fast does it spin?" Starbuck asked suddenly. Carter blinked at the question. "The inner ring?" "Fast enough to lock 7 chevrons in approximately." "No, I mean when someone comes through. How fast could we scramble a response if hostiles came out shooting?" "We have protocol for that," General Hank Landry said, entering the observation gallery with SG-1 in tow. He was older than Adama, maybe 65, with the weathered face of someone who'd seen more impossible things than reasonable and kept his sanity anyway. "Lieutenant Colonel Cameron Mitchell, my flagship SG team leader." Mitchell stepped forward, hand extended. He had an easy smile, a southern drawl, and scars on his hands that spoke of combat experience. "Commander Adama. Heard a lot about you in the past 18 hours. Hell of an entrance you made." Adama shook his hand, reading the measure of the man. Combat pilot, he'd been briefed. F-302 squadron commander before taking over SG-1. Someone who understood fighters and pilots. Someone Apollo and Starbuck might respect. "Your General Pendergast speaks highly of your team." "Well, we've saved the world a few times," Mitchell said with mock humility. "But who's counting?" 14 times, the large man beside him said. His voice was deep, his bearing utterly still, and his forehead bore a golden symbol that looked like it had been branded there. "If one counts only extinction-level threats. I am TLC. I was once first prime to the false god Apophis. Now I serve with SG-1 and the Free Jaffa Nation." The room went quiet. Adama studied the tattoo, the military bearing, the eyes that held decades of warfare. "You served a false god." "The Goa'uld claimed divinity through superior technology and ruthless domination," TLC said. "They are parasites. Snakes that burrow into human hosts and take complete control. I carried one for over 100 years, believing it granted the favor of my god. I was a fool. When I learned the truth, I joined SG-1 to free my people." Ty stepped closer, his good eye narrowing. "You had one of these snakes in you. And now you're just, what, cured?" "I use a drug called treponin," TLC explained. "It provides the immune system enhancement the symbiote once gave. The price is dependence on the drug. But it is a price I gladly pay for freedom." President Roslin spoke for the first time since entering the facility, her voice carrying the weight of someone recognizing familiar patterns. "You fought to free your people from beings that claimed to be gods. How long did the war last?" "It is not finished," TLC said simply. "The Goa'uld Empire has fallen. The System Lords are defeated. But pockets of resistance remain. Jaffa still enslaved to false gods. And now the Ori bring a new threat, ascended beings who are actual gods in power, if not in right." "Indeed," Roslin said quietly, and something in her tone made Adama glance at her sharply. She was filing this away, comparing it to the scrolls and prophecies she'd built her presidency on. Religious texts that spoke of earth and destiny and a dying leader guiding her people home. He wondered what she thought now, having found an Earth that wasn't theirs in a universe they'd never imagined. Dr. Daniel Jackson stepped forward, adjusting his glasses with the nervous energy of someone perpetually excited about knowledge. He'd been introduced as the team's archaeologist and linguist, the man who'd originally figured out how to make the Stargate work. "Commander, President Roslin, I've been studying the information you provided about your 12 colonies. Your language, your history, your religious texts. It's fascinating. You have gods called the Lords of Goa'uld. We don't have much use for gods anymore," Adama cut him off. "Not after they let the Cylons murder 50 billion people." "I understand," Daniel said, not backing down. "But I think there's a connection here. Your scriptures talk about an exodus from Goa'uld, a search for Earth. We have ancient records of the Stargate network. I think, and this is preliminary, but I think your ancestors might have encountered the ancients. The technology we're standing in front of. Maybe they saw it and incorporated it into their mythology. Or maybe our ancestors are from an entirely different universe," Baltar interjected, "and any similarities are coincidental. Parallel evolution, convergent cultural development. We're discussing metaphysics when we should be discussing physics." He turned to Carter like a student addressing a master. "I've reviewed your initial data on Nequada. The energy density is extraordinary. Nothing like Artilium. If we could convert Galactica's power systems." "One thing at a time, Doctor," General Landry said. His voice carried command authority that made even Baltar shut up. "Commander Adama, President Roslin, you're here because we need to establish the parameters of an alliance. You need resources. We can provide them. But I need to know what you're bringing to the table besides refugees." Starbuck snorted. "How about a Battlestar with enough nukes to glass a planet? We've got BC-304s that can do that from orbit," Mitchell said easily. "No offense, but we're not hurting for firepower." "Then what do you want from us?" Apollo asked, his idealism shading toward suspicion. "You're offering food, fuel, supplies. What's the price?" Landry gestured toward the gate. "We're about to demonstrate what we need. Vala, you want to do the honors?" A woman Adama hadn't been introduced to sauntered forward with the confidence of someone who'd learned to make every entrance count. Black hair, form-fitting combat gear, a smile that promised trouble. Vala Mal-Doran, formerly of the Goa'uld host variety, now full-time pain in Daniel's ass and part-time SG-1 member. Charmed. She was implanted with a Goa'uld symbiote, Daniel explained quickly at the Colonials' expressions. Against her will. The symbiote was removed. She's been helping us fight the Ori. Vala pressed her hand against a control panel, and the Stargate suddenly roared to life. The inner ring spun with precision, massive chevrons locking into place one by one with sounds like thunder. Each lock sent energy cascading around the ring, 7 points of celestial coordinates defining a destination impossibly far away. "Chevron 7, locked," a technician announced. The gate exploded outward with a massive unstable vortex that made every colonial in the room flinch back. The Kawush disintegrated a test projectile that had been placed in front of the gate, then settled into a stable, shimmering vertical pool of liquid light. "That," Landry said, "is a wormhole to P4X-639, a mineral-rich planet 40,000 light-years away. We can send teams through, gather resources, and return in hours. We do this every day. Multiple times." Starbuck was already moving toward the window, drawn to the impossible. That's not possible. You can't just punch a hole through space." "The ancients could," Carter said. "And they left the network for us to use. Commander, we need experienced military personnel willing to go through that gate. To explore. To make first contact with alien civilizations. To fight when necessary. Your people have combat experience we respect. Your Battlestar has capabilities our ships don't, particularly in atmospheric combat and close-range engagement. We're offering membership in Earth's defense network in exchange for your participation in gate operations." "You want us to become explorers," Roslin said. Soldiers who walk through that ring to unknown worlds. We want you to survive, Landry corrected. And help others survive. The Ori are coming. Their ships are bigger, faster, more powerful than anything we can field. We need every advantage. Every ally. Every experienced combat unit willing to stand against them. Adama watched the shimmering event horizon, feeling the pull of it. Destiny, maybe. Or just desperation wearing Destiny's mask. Behind him, Chief Tyrol whispered to Apollo, "How many moving parts does that thing have? How do you maintain it? What happens if a chevron fails mid-dial?" "I can answer those questions," Carter offered. "And I'd love to show your engineering team how the gate interfaces with our power systems. But Commander," she looked at Adama directly. "The General is right. We need your answer. Alliance or not? What about our civilian fleet?" Roslin asked. 48,000 refugees who've been through hell. What happens to them? We settle them, Landry said. We've got planets. Colonies established through the gate network. Places with resources and defensibility. Or they can stay on Earth, integrate with our population. We've absorbed refugees before. Absorbed, Ty repeated. Not conquered. Not enslaved. Not our style, Mitchell said. Look, I get the trust issues. Really. But we're facing an enemy that makes your Cylons look like toasters having a bad day. The Ori convert entire civilizations or burn them. They've got priors, enhanced humans with actual superpowers, spreading their religion like a virus. We need all hands on deck. The gate shimmered, waiting for someone to step through. Waiting for the decision that would define what the Colonial Fleet became in this universe. Adama looked at Roslin. She gave the slightest nod. He turned to Landry. We'll need to see these resources. These planets you're offering. And I want my people making the choice to go through that gate, not being ordered. Fair enough, Landry said. SG-1, gear up. You're taking our guests on a field trip. Show them what we're defending. Show them what they'd be joining. Starbuck was already grinning. We're going through that thing. Hell yes. Apollo looked at his father. Adama saw the same conflict he felt, duty versus caution, necessity versus paranoia, the desperate hope that maybe this Earth could be trusted when their own gods couldn't. Suit up, Adama ordered his people. We're going to see what's on the other side. As the Colonials filed out to prepare, Baltar lingered at the window, staring at the gate with the expression of a man who'd found religion again. And in his head, where only he could hear her, Head 6 whispered, "This is it, Gaius. The technology that will save us. Or damn us. But either way, it's glorious." The briefing room adjacent to the gate chamber felt claustrophobic despite its size. Commander Adama sat across from General Landry with President Roslin beside him, watching as Major Carter displayed holographic images of what she called a Goa'uld System Lord's Hatak mothership. The pyramid-shaped vessel rotating in the projection looked like something from colonial mythology, ancient Egyptian architecture transformed into a weapon of war. They're not just false gods, Carter explained, her laser pointer highlighting sections of the vessel. They're parasitic organisms that have been enslaving humanity across the galaxy for thousands of years. The symbiote enters through the neck, wraps around the spinal column, and takes complete control of the host body. The host is still conscious, trapped inside their own mind, watching the Goa'uld use their body. Ty's face had gone pale. That's worse than the Cylons. The Cylons killed you, Daniel Jackson added quietly from his position leaning against the wall. The Goa'uld make you a prisoner in your own flesh while they commit atrocities using your hands. Some hosts have been trapped for decades. Roslin's hand trembled as she reached for her water glass. Adama saw the calculation behind her eyes. She was dying of cancer, months at most, and now she was learning there were parasites that could steal bodies. The mathematical horror of it. How do you tell? Roslin asked. If someone is compromised. If one of these Goa'uld is wearing someone you know like a suit. Their eyes glow when they're using their power, TLC said. The Naquata in their blood activates their technology and marks them. But a careful Goa'uld can hide for some time if they choose. Like a Cylon infiltrator, Adama said, his voice hard. Humanoid models that look exactly like us. We had 12 models walking among the fleet before the attacks. Some of them were deep cover agents who didn't even know what they were. They'd lived entire lives as human, activated only when needed. The room went quiet. SG-1 exchanged glances. Commander, Landry said carefully, are you saying your enemy has sleeper agents that could be anywhere? Including in your fleet right now? We don't know, Adama admitted. After the attacks, we implemented security protocols. But the truth is, we're flying blind. We lost our entire military intelligence network when the colonies burned. For all we know, there could be Cylons among my crew right now, waiting for orders from base ships that may or may not be able to follow us here. That's a problem, Mitchell said. If hostile infiltrators come through with you, they'll have access to SGC, to Earth, to the entire gate network. The same concern applies to your Goa'uld, Tai shot back. How do we know you're all clean? How do we know you're not leading us into a trap right now? Vala raised her hand cheerfully. I was a host. Can confirm it's deeply unpleasant. But I'm all human now. Well, mostly human. There was this incident with Katesh. Not helping, Vala, Daniel muttered. Landry stood, commanding the room's attention. Here's the reality, you don't trust us completely, we don't trust you completely, and we're all dealing with enemies that specialize in infiltration and deception. Welcome to modern warfare. But we've got something your Cylons probably don't, the Takare. The what? Apollo asked from his position near the door. Takare, TLC explained. Goa'uld who oppose the System Lords. They blend with willing human hosts in true symbiosis. The host and symbiote share control equally. They have technology that can detect Goa'uld symbiotes. And you trust them? Adama asked skeptically. We've been allies for 9 years, Carter said. They've saved our asses more times than I can count. They can scan your people, verify that none of them are Goa'uld hosts. In return, maybe your medical technology can help us develop better detection methods for both threats. You want to share intelligence, Roslin said. It wasn't a question. Pool our knowledge about infiltration, detection, security protocols. Turn our mutual paranoia into mutual protection. That's the idea, Landry confirmed. Because right now, you're vulnerable in ways you don't understand, and we're vulnerable in ways we're still learning. But together. The alert klaxon cut through his words like a knife. Red lights bathed the briefing room. A voice over the intercom, unscheduled off-world activation. Repeat, unscheduled off-world activation. Every member of SG-1 was moving before the announcement finished. Mitchell was through the door first, Carter right behind him, the rest flowing with the practiced efficiency of people who'd done this drill 100 times. The Colonials followed, hands instinctively reaching for sidearms they hadn't been allowed to bring into the facility. The gate room was organized chaos. Marine guards in full tactical gear took positions behind reinforced barriers, weapons trained on the active Stargate. The event horizon rippled with incoming transit. Behind the iris, that 3-micrometer barrier Carter had promised would protect them, something was trying to come through. IDC is negative, the control room technician announced. No valid identification code. Keep the iris closed, Landry ordered, joining them in the observation gallery. What's coming through? The answer came in the form of impacts against the iris. Not people, they would have been disintegrated at the molecular level. This was something else. Energy weapons fire, lancing through the wormhole from wherever it originated, splattering against the barrier in cascades of sparks. Staff weapon fire, Carter identified. Goa'uld. Multiple sources. They're probing our defenses, Mitchell said. Happens sometimes when a system lord gets ambitious or stupid. Usually both. Starbuck was pressed against the observation window, watching the light show. That barrier is stopping weapons fire from how far away? Could be anywhere in the galaxy, Carter said. The wormhole is one way, but energy can traverse it in either direction against the iris. They're basically shooting blind, hoping to overwhelm the barrier. And if it fails? Apollo asked. Then those Marines down there earn their paychecks, Mitchell said. But the iris has held for 9 years. It'll hold now. The weapon's fire continued for another 30 seconds, then stopped. The Stargate disengaged, chevrons powering down, the event horizon collapsing into nothing. Silence filled the gate room like held breath. Stand down to condition yellow, Landry ordered. Carter, I want a full diagnostic on the iris. Mitchell, coordinate with off-world intelligence. Find out who just knocked on our door. Yes, sir. SG-1 dispersed to their tasks. Adama turned to Landry. That happens regularly. Often enough, Landry said. The gate address for Earth isn't a secret anymore. Any system lord with the coordinates can try their luck. They never make it through. Unless they do, Ty said. Unless one day that barrier fails or someone steals your codes or finds another way in. Then you've got hostiles pouring into your command center. Then we fight, Landry said simply. We've repelled boarding actions before. Will again. Commander, I'm not going to lie to you, this isn't a safe universe. The gate network is both our greatest asset and our greatest vulnerability. But it's kept Earth alive and free. It's given us the ability to help others. And right now, it's the only thing that can get your people the resources they need to survive. Rosalind spoke quietly, watching the empty Stargate. How many people have you lost? Going through that device to worlds you didn't understand, facing enemies you couldn't predict? Too many, Daniel said, returning from his consultation with Carter. Friends. Colleagues. Good people doing impossible jobs. But we've also saved millions. Maybe billions. Civilizations that would have fallen to the Goa'uld or the Replicators or the Ori. The math is brutal, but it's still in favor of stepping through. Chief Tyrol had been studying the gate mechanism from the gallery, his engineers' cataloging systems. How do you maintain it? That thing looks older than our oldest ship. It's millions of years old, Carter said. Ancient technology is incredibly durable. We've learned to interface our power systems with it, but the core mechanism is self-maintaining. Crystal-based computational matrices that regenerate themselves. Crystal computers, Baltar breathed. Not digital networks. Organic technology. It's brilliant. It's vulnerable in different ways, Carter interrupted. A computer virus won't affect it, but the right energy weapon can damage the crystals. The replicators learned that. Nearly shut down the entire network once. Replicators? Apollo asked. Nanite-based artificial life, Daniel explained. Self-replicating machines that consume technology and adapt to any attack. We defeated them, mostly, but it was close. Really close. Adama felt the weight of it settling on his shoulders, the realization that they'd fled one war into a galaxy full of them. Parasites that stole bodies. Machines that ate technology. Ascended beings conducting crusades. And at the center of it all, this ring of ancient metal that promised salvation and threatened damnation with equal probability. We need to see it work, Adama said finally. Not an attack. Not an emergency. A normal mission. I want to watch your teams go through, accomplish an objective, and return. I need to know this isn't suicide. Done, Landry said. SG-1, you're taking our guests on a milk run. P3X 774. Mining operation, established colony, friendly locals. Show them how a standard gate mission operates. Mitchell grinned. Milk run. Famous last words. That's not encouraging, Starbuck said. Welcome to the Stargate program, Vala said cheerfully. Where even the safe missions try to kill you, but at least you get to see amazing things before the inevitable disaster. 2 hours later, Commander Adama stood in the gate room wearing borrowed BDUs and a P-90 submachine gun that felt alien in his hands after years of carrying colonial sidearms. Apollo, Starbuck, Ty, and Chief Tyrol were similarly outfitted. President Roslin had remained behind. Her health wouldn't permit off-world travel, but she'd given Adama her blessing to evaluate the situation. SG-1 stood ready at the base of the ramp leading to the Stargate. Mitchell ran through final equipment checks while Carter verified power readings and Daniel adjusted his pack of archaeological tools he apparently brought on every mission. TLC stood utterly still, staff weapon held with the comfort of long familiarity. Vala was explaining to Starbuck how the GDO, the Iris code transmitter, worked. Chevron 1, encoded, the technician announced. The gate spun. Locked. Spun again. Starbuck leaned toward Apollo. I can't believe we're doing this. We've done crazier things, Apollo said. Remember that time you crashed on that moon and... Chevron 7, locked. The kawoosh erupted outward, unstable and violent, disintegrating the air molecules in front of the gate before settling into that impossible pool of vertical water. Light shimmered across its surface. 40,000 light-years away, a planet Adama had never heard of waited. SG-1, you have a go, Landry said from the control room. Mitchell looked back at the Colonials. Ready to see what we do? Adama looked at the event horizon, thought about the 50,000 people depending on his decision, thought about his son standing beside him about to step into technology he didn't trust built by aliens he'd never met. Thought about his dead wife, his burned worlds, his exhausted fleet. Let's go, he said. Mitchell walked up the ramp and into the Stargate without hesitation. He simply stepped through the shimmering surface and vanished, as casually as walking through a doorway. Carter followed. Daniel. TLC. Vala turned at the threshold, grinning. See you on the other side. She stepped through. Starbuck looked at Apollo. Apollo looked at his father. Chief Tyrol muttered something that might have been a prayer. Ty took a drink from his flask, he'd found one somewhere, and squared his shoulders. Frack it, Starbuck said, and ran up the ramp. She hit the event horizon at speed and dissolved into light. Apollo followed more carefully, his pilot's instincts demanding caution even as he committed. Chief Tyrol walked through with an engineer's careful assessment of risk versus necessity. Ty went through with a soldier's resignation to duty. Adama stood alone at the base of the ramp, looking up at the Stargate. At the symbol of everything this universe represented, ancient wonders, terrible dangers, and the thin line between them. Behind him, in the control room, President Roslin watched through the observation glass. Dying of cancer, leading refugees through impossible choices, betting everything on a promise that Earth had made. Commander William Adama, last surviving officer of Colonial Fleet Command, took the first step up the ramp toward a ring of alien metal that would dissolve his body into energy, transmit him 40,000 light-years in seconds, and reconstitute him on a world he'd never imagined. He stepped through. The universe turned inside out. The sensation of gate travel defied description. Adama's body didn't exist, not as matter, not as flesh, not as anything with weight or substance. He was pattern, information, consciousness compressed into a stream of energy hurtling through a tunnel that shouldn't exist. Cold. Absolute cold that froze thought itself. Then. Gravity returned like a hammer. His boots hit solid ground. His body reassembled from nothing, every atom remembering where it belonged. Adama stumbled forward off the ramp on the other side, his stomach threatening rebellion, his equilibrium shattered. First time's always rough, Mitchell said, catching his elbow. You get used to it. Eventually. Adama straightened, forcing his body back under control through sheer will, and looked around. They stood in a clearing surrounded by forest, tall trees with purple-tinged bark reaching toward a sky that was subtly wrong. Two suns hung at different angles, one yellow-white, one orange-red. The air tasted different, smelled of vegetation that wasn't quite pine, wasn't quite anything from the 12 colonies. Behind them, the Stargate stood on a platform of ancient stone, the event horizon already collapsing as the wormhole disengaged. Chevrons powered down with sounds like distant thunder. The DHD, dial home device, Carter had called it, sat nearby, its control crystals glowing faintly with residual energy. "Welcome to P3X-774, Daniel said, adjusting his glasses and pulling out some kind of scanning device. "About 40,000 light-years from Earth. Give or take." Starbuck was bent over with her hands on her knees, breathing hard. "That was, frack, that was like being shot out of a launch tube and crushed and frozen all at once." "Poetic," Vala said. "I usually just go with, deeply unpleasant." Ty had his sidearm out, scanning the tree line with professional paranoia. "Where are the locals? This is supposed to be a colony." "Settlements about 2 clicks that way," Carter said, pointing toward a path through the forest. "We're giving the Colonials the full experience, approach on foot, make contact, see how standard first contact protocols work." "Even though they already know us," Apollo said, helping Starbuck straighten up. "Even though," Mitchell confirmed. "Because tomorrow it might be a new planet, new people, new potential threats. You need to see the whole process." Chief Tyrol was already examining the DHD, his hands hovering over the controls without quite touching them. "This powers the gate. Wireless energy transfer. Crystal-based power transmission," Carter explained. "The DHD has a self-contained power source that interfaces with the Stargate when activated. We still don't fully understand the physics, but it works." "Everything here is crystals," Tyrol muttered. "Not circuits, not processors, not anything I know how to fix if it breaks." "That's the learning curve," Carter said sympathetically. "Took me years to really understand ancient technology. Still learning new things." TLC had taken point, his staff weapon ready, eyes scanning the forest with the stillness of a predator. "We should move. Remaining near the gate exposes us unnecessarily." They moved out in formation. SG-1 took standard positions with practiced efficiency while the Colonials adapted on the fly. Adama noticed how Apollo and Starbuck instinctively fell into wingman positions, how Ty watched their 6, how Chief Tyrol kept Carter in sight like an engineer protecting the person with all the answers. Combat instincts translating across universes. The path wound through alien forest, and Adama found himself cataloging differences. The trees were taller than most colonial varieties, the undergrowth thicker. Small creatures moved through the canopy, not quite birds, not quite anything familiar. The gravity felt slightly lighter, the air slightly thinner. Every sense reported wrongness, but it was a survivable wrongness. "Daniel, what's the history here?" Mitchell asked as they walked. Daniel pulled out a tablet, consulting notes. P3X-774 was seeded by the Goa'uld about 8,000 years ago. System Lord RA used it as a mining operation initially, Naquata deposits in the southern continent. But the civilization developed slowly, stayed relatively primitive, so the Goa'uld lost interest. When the TOC RA helped us free this sector 5 years ago, the locals welcomed Earth protection. We've been helping them modernize, medicine, agriculture, basic technology. Basic, Baltar repeated, having been mostly silent since the gate transit. He looked pale, shaken. "What level of development?" "Early industrial," Carter said. "Steam power, basic metallurgy, pre-electrical. They've got about 200,000 people across 3 major settlements. We're heading to the capital, such as it is." "You're uplifting them," Adama said quietly. "Giving them technology they didn't develop themselves." We're helping them survive, Daniel corrected. The Goa'uld enslaved them for millennia, suppressed their development, took their resources. We're just leveling the playing field. And what happens when they get access to the Stargate? Tai asked. When they figure out how to dial it themselves? You've just given primitive people the keys to the galaxy. They already know the gate exists, Mitchell said. Most gate-capable worlds do. The question is whether we help them learn to use it responsibly or leave them vulnerable to whoever comes through next. The Goa'uld. The Ori. The Lucian Alliance. There are predators out here, Colonel. We'd rather have allies than victims. The forest opened onto cultivated fields. Crops Adama didn't recognize grew in organized rows, tended by workers using tools that looked like colonial hand plows but with subtle design differences. In the distance, a settlement of stone and timber buildings clustered around a central square. Smoke rose from chimneys. The sounds of civilization, voices, hammers, the distant bark of something that might have been a dog. Looks peaceful, Starbuck observed. They usually do, Vala said. Right until the Ori Prior shows up or the Goa'uld return or the village elder turns out to be a replicator spy. Peaceful is suspicious. A figure emerged from the settlement, tall, dark-skinned, wearing robes that spoke of authority. Others followed, a delegation coming to meet them. The lead figure's face broke into a smile as he recognized SG-1. Colonel Mitchell. The man's English was accented but clear, learned from years of gate contact. We did not expect you for another 2 weeks. Has something, he noticed the unfamiliar faces. You bring new allies. Chancellor Ahriman, Mitchell said, extending his hand in the Earth custom the locals had adopted. These are representatives from the Colonial Fleet. They're new to the gate network. We're showing them how things work. Ahriman studied the Colonials with intelligent eyes. Colonial Fleet. From which world do you hail? From the 12 colonies, Adama said, stepping forward. Or we did. Our worlds were destroyed. We're refugees in this galaxy. The Chancellor's expression softened into sympathy that transcended culture. We understand loss, Commander. The Goa'uld took much from us over millennia. But you have found friends, yes. Earth has been generous to us. Medicine that cured the red fever last winter. Seeds that grow in our poor soil. Knowledge of irrigation. They ask little in return. What do they ask? Roslyn would have demanded to know the price. Adama asked for her. That we remain free, Ahriman said simply. That we do not bow to false gods. That we remember we are human, not cattle. It is not a difficult promise to keep. They walked into the settlement together, and Adama watched his people experience first contact from the other side. Apollo speaking with local militia about defensive positions. Starbuck showing children the P-90, much to Mitchell's amusement. Chief Tyrol examining their metallurgy with the blacksmith, finding common ground in the universal language of making things work. Tai stayed close to Adama, his paranoia never fully resting. It's too easy. Too friendly. You've been burned before, TLC said, appearing beside them with that unnerving silence. You expect betrayal. This is wise. But sometimes, Commander Adama, people simply wish to live free. The Jaffa understand this. We fought for a century to throw off the Goa'uld yoke. These people fight in smaller ways, but their desire for freedom is no less real. The Jaffa, Adama said. You said you were first prime. What does that mean? The highest rank among a System Lord's warriors, TLC explained. I commanded Apophis's army. I killed in his name. I believed I served a god. His voice carried the weight of decades of guilt. I was wrong. And when I learned the truth, I betrayed my God, my command, my people's beliefs to stand with SG-1. Many Jaffa called me traitor. Some still do. But the Free Jaffa Nation exists because some of us chose truth over comfortable lies. Your people must hate you, Tai said. Some do. Others call me hero. I am neither. I am simply a warrior who learned his god was a snake wearing a human face. TLC met Adama's eyes. You fled machines that destroyed your worlds. I fled gods that enslaved mine. We are not so different, Commander. They gathered in the settlement's council chamber, a modest stone building with wooden beams and windows that let in the strange double sunlight. Chancellor Ahriman spread a map across the table, marking locations in this region of space accessible by Stargate. These worlds, Ahriman said, pointing to marked sites, are also free of Goa'uld control. We trade with them through Earth's gate system. Medicine, tools, knowledge. It is a network of mutual support. And if someone hostile comes through? Apollo asked. If the Goa'uld return? We have weapons Earth provided. Ahriman gestured to the corner where staff weapons and Zat guns were carefully stored. And training. Your Colonel Mitchell's teams taught our militia defensive tactics. But our greatest defense is this, he tapped the map showing the gate network. We are not alone. An attack on one world brings response from others. Earth promises protection. They have kept that promise. Baltar had been quiet, studying the map with feverish intensity. How many worlds? How many in this network? Thousands, Daniel said. We've only explored a fraction of the gate addresses in the ancient database. But every year we find more allies, more civilizations worth protecting, more reasons to keep the network secure. Or more vulnerabilities, Baltar muttered. More points of failure. More. The alert came as a sound, a low, resonant tone that made every person in the room freeze. Outside, the Stargate was activating. Chevrons locked in sequence from somewhere else in the galaxy, someone dialing this world. Mitchell was moving instantly, P90 up. Chancellor, we expecting any gate traffic? No, Ahriman said, fear creeping into his voice. Not until your scheduled supply run next week. Carter was already scanning with her handheld device. Energy signature is, frac, that's a Goa'uld signature. Hatak-class vessel entered orbit. They're dialing the gate from orbit. Defensive positions. Mitchell barked. TLC, get to the tree line with the locals. Daniel, Carter, with me. Vala, civilian protection. The Colonials reacted with combat efficiency despite the alien threat. Apollo and Starbuck had weapons up, moving to cover positions. Tai was already herding non-combatants toward shelter. Chief Tyrol grabbed Ahriman. You have weapons. Where? But it was too late. Through the settlement central square, they could see the Stargate's event horizon shimmer. And stepping through, surrounded by Jaffa warriors in serpent helm armor carrying staff weapons, came a figure that made TLC's face darken with recognition. The Goa'uld's eyes glowed with stolen power. His voice carried unnatural resonance, amplified by the symbiote within. I am Lord Ares. This world was marked for harvest by my predecessor. I claim it now in his name. Kneel before your god, or burn. Behind him, more Jaffa poured through the gate. 20. 30. An occupation force. And Commander Adama, standing in an alien settlement on a world 40,000 light-years from where his civilization had died, realized he was about to fight his first battle in the Stargate universe. Not against machines. Against parasites claiming divinity. Weapons free, he said quietly to his people. Starbuck grinned. Finally. Something to shoot. The false god raised his hand, ribbon device glowing. The battle for P3X-774 began. The ribbon device on Ares's hand flared with golden light, and the air itself became a weapon. An invisible force slammed into the nearest building, stone exploding into shrapnel that tore through wood and flesh. Screaming. The locals scattered like birds before a storm while Jaffa warriors spread into firing positions with military precision that Adama recognized across species. Scatter and engage. Mitchell's voice cut through chaos. Don't bunch up. SG-1, defensive pattern delta. Staff weapons discharged with that distinctive crack-tum sound, plasma bolts scorching the air. One caught a colonial militia member in the chest, punching through him in an eruption of superheated tissue. The man didn't scream, didn't have time. He just ceased being alive. Adama dove behind a stone well as return fire erupted. P-90s chattered on full auto, the sound rang in his ears after years of colonial weapons, but effective. 3 Jaffa went down under concentrated fire, their armor insufficient against modern Earth kinetics. Apollo and Starbuck had found cover behind a wagon, firing in disciplined bursts. They're armored but not invincible. Carter shouted from behind a low wall. Aim for the neck seals. The helmet joins. TLC's staff weapon spoke with authority born of 100 years of experience. Each shot was precise, economical. A Jaffa fell. Another. But more kept coming through the gate, an endless stream of warriors in serpent helms, fanatics who believed they served a god. Tyrol. Adama shouted. Can you shut down that gate? The chief was pinned behind the council building with Ahriman and a handful of locals armed with hunting weapons and captured staff weapons. I don't know how. I'd need to get to the DHD. I'll cover you. Starbuck was up and moving before anyone could stop her, firing as she ran. P-90 rounds chewed through a Jaffa warrior's staff weapon, then his chest. She hit the ground in a slide, came up behind a statue, kept firing. Starbuck, you crazy, Apollo was moving to support, Ty following, laying down suppression fire. Lord Ares stood at the base of the gate ramp, untouched by the chaos, his hand cannon, the Kara-Kesh ribbon device, turning buildings to rubble with contemptuous ease. His voice boomed with unnatural resonance, you resist a god. Witness his power. The ribbon device flared, and Chief Tyrol's cover exploded. The chief was thrown backward, slammed into the ground hard enough to crack ribs. He didn't get up. Chief. Apollo changed direction, sprinting toward the fallen engineer. A staff blast caught Apollo in the shoulder, spinning him around. He went down. Starbuck screamed his name, reversed course, covering fire forgotten in the face of her wingman falling. Adama felt the tactical situation collapsing. They were outnumbered, outgunned, facing technology that turned individuals into artillery. The locals were dying. His people were exposed. And that God's damned gate kept churning out more Jaffa. Then TLC did something that changed everything. The former First Prime stepped into the open, staff weapon held high, and shouted in a language Adama didn't understand, Goa'uld, he realized. Command language. Every Jaffa in the square froze, recognition and confusion warring on the faces visible beneath serpent helms. Jaffa Cree. TLC's voice carried absolute authority. I am TLC of Chulak, once First Prime to Apophis. These humans are under the protection of the Tauri. You fight the giant slayers who destroyed Ra, Apophis, Anubis, and cast down the system lords. Lord Ares is not a god, he is a parasite. A snake wearing the face of a man. The Goa'uld are false gods. Your enslavement ends when you choose freedom. The Jaffa hesitated. Just for a heartbeat. But in combat, a heartbeat was eternity. Lord Ares snarled, his glowing eyes flaring brighter. Traitor! You dare speak heresy before me? You will watch these humans burn, then I will take you as host and erase your... The explosion came from above. Adama looked up to see fighters screaming through atmosphere, not Vipers, not F-302s, something else entirely. Death gliders, Carter had called them in the briefing. Goa'uld fighters, swept-wing aircraft bristling with weapons. But these gliders weren't firing at the settlement. They were firing at each other. A glider disintegrated under plasma fire from its wing mate, debris raining down on the forest beyond the settlement. The attacking fighter pulled up in a victory roll, then dove toward the gate platform. It didn't slow down. Adama realized what was about to happen a split second before impact. Everybody down. The glider smashed into the gate platform at full speed. Metal and stone and ancient technology met in a collision that physics barely allowed. The explosion threw Jaffa warriors like toys, sent Lord Ares tumbling down the ramp, and, critically, severed the gate's connection to its power source. The event horizon collapsed. The stream of reinforcements cut off. In the ringing silence after the explosion, a figure climbed from the glider's wreckage. Female, wearing Jaffa armor but with no helmet. Her face bore the golden tattoo of a System Lord's personal guard, but her eyes held defiance, not fanaticism. "Forgive the dramatic entrance," she said in English. "But I calculated that was the fastest way to disable the gate." She surveyed the carnage, the wounded, the confused Jaffa warriors who just watched their air support crash into their own position. "I am Mala, formerly First Prime to Lord you. I bring warning from the Free Jaffa Nation. The Ori have made contact with surviving System Lords. An alliance forms against Earth. This attack is merely the beginning." Lord Ares rose from the rubble, bleeding from a gash across his forehead, his host's blood, mixed with the symbiotes. His eyes still glowed with stolen power, but now they held fury. "Treacherous female. You dare." Mala shot him. Not with staff weapon or zat. With something that looked like a small metallic sphere she'd pulled from her armor. She threw it. The sphere attached to Ares's chest and discharged a pulse of violet energy that made the Goa'uld convulse, his back arching impossibly. The symbiote emerged. Not by choice, forced out by whatever technology Mala had used. The snake-like organism writhed on the ground, trying to find another host, find safety, find anything. Mala stepped on it deliberately, grinding it under her boot until it stopped moving. The host, a human man, maybe 40, with the dazed expression of someone waking from a nightmare, collapsed. His eyes were his own again. Brown, terrified, confused. "You are free," Mala told him gently. Then she raised her voice to the remaining Jaffa. "You all are free. The Goa'uld lie. The gods are parasites. You see proof before you, a System Lord reduced to a dying worm beneath my boot. Choose freedom or die slaves. Decide now." The Jaffa looked at each other. At their dead god on the ground. At TLC standing with the Tauri. At Mala with her Goa'uld killing technology. The mathematics of faith crumbling under empirical evidence. One by one, they removed their helmets. Kelnorim meditation posture, the sign of submission. Not to new gods. To truth. Mitchell lowered his P90, breathing hard. "Well. That's new." Adama was moving before the surrender fully registered, heading for his people. Apollo was conscious, sitting up with Starbuck's help, blood streaming from the shoulder wound but alive. Chief Tyrol was being tended by Daniel, ribs possibly broken but breathing. Ty had acquired a Zat gun from somewhere and looked disappointed he wouldn't get to use it. "Status," Adama demanded. "I'm fine," Apollo said through gritted teeth. "Went through the shoulder, missed bone. Hurts like frack but I'm operational." "Chief needs medical," Daniel reported. "Possible internal injuries. We need to get him back through the gate to SGC's infirmary." "The gate is damaged," Carter said, examining the wreckage where Mala's glider had impacted. The DHD was cracked, sparking, its crystals shattered. "I can't dial Earth from here. We're cut off." Adama felt the old familiar weight, the commander's burden of people depending on him with no good options. "How long to repair?" "Days," Carter admitted. "Maybe weeks. We'd need replacement crystals from Earth, which we can't reach." Classic catch, 22. Mala approached, stepping over Jaffa bodies with practiced ease. Up close, Adama could see the scars on her arms, the tattoo marking her as property of a system lord, the eyes that had seen too much. There is a solution. Lord Ares brought a Teltac, cargo vessel, to orbit. I commandeered the glider from it before diving. The Teltac has ring transporters. We can reach orbit, use the ship's communication system to contact Earth, request assistance. You stole a ship? Vala said admiringly. I'm beginning to like you. How do we get to orbit? Mitchell asked. And how do we know this isn't a trap? No offense, but we've got trust issues with former First Primes who show up during battles. I understand, Mala said. I offer proof of my intentions. I could have let Lord Ares slaughter you. Instead, I disabled the gate, killed my former god, and freed his Jaffa. But I am merely one warrior. The true threat comes from the alliance forming between System Lords and Ori. Earth must know. The galaxy must prepare. TLC stepped forward, studying Mala with the intensity of someone reading another warrior's soul. I knew of you. First Prime to you, the eldest System Lord. You served him with honor even when he descended into senility. When the Free Jaffa rebelled, you remained at your post. Why do you abandon him now? You is dead, Mala said flatly. Killed by Baal 3 months ago. I served my lord until his last breath. But I will not serve his murderer. And I will not serve the Ori, who are worse than the Goa'uld ever were. So I come to Earth. To the Tauri who killed gods. To seek alliance and warn of what approaches. The Teltac, Adama said, pulling the tactical discussion back to immediate problems. How do we reach it? Mala pulled out a small device. Asgard-designed transportation device, stolen by the Goa'uld, reverse-engineered. It creates a localized ring transporter effect. We can beam directly to the ship from here. That's... Carter's eyes went wide. That's a personal beaming device. We've been trying to develop those for years. The power requirements alone are solved by Naquata-enhanced crystal matrices, Mala said. I can show you. After we survive. Lord Ares was merely a scout. The Hatak mothership in orbit will have detected the gate shutting down. They will send more forces. We must leave now. Ahriman appeared from where he'd been protecting civilians, his face streaked with blood from a grazing staff blast. And my people? We are defenseless now without the gate. When more Goa'uld come, we evacuate who we can, Mitchell decided. Carter, can we beam multiple people? If Mala's device works as described, yes. But Commander Adama's injured need priority. Apollo, Chief Tyrol, they need Dr. Fraser's care immediately. Dr. Fraser died 6 years ago, Daniel said quietly. But Dr. Lamb is just as capable. The name correction held a story Adama filed away for later. These people had lost their own. Paid their own prices for walking through gates into danger. Beam us up, Adama ordered. Get my people to safety. Then we coordinate response from orbit. We're not abandoning this colony. No, Mala agreed. We defend it. Because if we lose even one world to the Ori-Goa'uld alliance, we lose the principle that matters most. That humans, whether from Earth or the colonies or any world, do not kneel to false gods. Starbuck helped Apollo to his feet, supporting him despite his protests. So we're going to orbit in alien technology to steal a ship we've never seen to call for help from people we met yesterday. Sounds like a Tuesday back in the fleet. Indeed, TLC said. Mala activated the device. Reality folded, and Adama felt his atoms disassemble for the second time that day. But this time, when he reformed, he stood in the cargo bay of a Goa'uld Teltac, surrounded by his people and aliens who'd become allies through necessity and shared enemies. Through the viewport, P3X-774 hung below them. Peaceful from orbit. burning in 3 places from the battle. And somewhere in the black, sensors detected another ship. Another threat. Another impossible choice approaching. But for now, they lived. And living meant fighting. Even in a universe that wasn't their own. The Teltax cockpit was cramped, designed for Jaffa proportions rather than comfort. Adama stood behind Mala as she piloted with the casual expertise of someone who'd spent decades in Goa'uld vessels. The controls were crystalline interfaces that responded to touch, holographic displays showing tactical data in symbols that looked like stylized hieroglyphics. The Hatak is maintaining high orbit, Mala reported. They have not yet detected our presence. Lord Ares' ship reads as friendly on their sensors. But that advantage will not last. Once they realize their master is dead, they will either flee or attack in revenge. Carter was studying the Teltax systems with the hungry focus of an engineer presented with alien technology. This cloaking device is more sophisticated than anything we've captured before. How long can we maintain it? Hours, if we remain stationary, Mala said. Minutes, if we engage engines. The cloak requires substantial power. We must choose, hide or run. We need to contact Earth, Mitchell said from where he crouched beside the communication console. Daniel, you read Goa'uld. Help me figure out how to route a signal through the gate network without physically dialing. That's not how gates work, Daniel said, but he was already examining the console. Unless, wait. The Goa'uld use long-range communication crystals that interface with gate power signatures. If we can tap into the planet's gate remotely, use its residual power to boost a signal. They descended into technical discussion that Adama couldn't follow. He moved to the viewport, looking down at P3X-774. Somewhere on that world, Chancellor Ahriman was organizing survivors, treating wounded, preparing for the next attack that might come through the damaged gate or from orbit. 50,000 people in his fleet faced similar uncertainty, scattered across alien space, dependent on Earth's protection, vulnerable in ways they'd never been even during the Cylon attacks. Commander. TLC appeared beside him with that unnerving silence. You are troubled. My son is wounded, Adama said quietly. My chief engineer has broken ribs. We're trapped on an alien ship in orbit of a world we'd never heard of yesterday, facing enemies we don't understand, dependent on allies we barely know. Yes, TLC. I'm troubled. Yet you adapt, TLC observed. Your people fight beside ours without hesitation despite the unfamiliarity. Captain Thrace flies with the instincts of a warrior. Colonel Tai maintains discipline under impossible circumstances. This speaks of experience with chaos. We've been running for months, Adama admitted. Every jump could be into Cylon ambush. Every resource stop could be our last. You learn to fight on the move or you die. He glanced at the Jaffa. You said you betrayed your god. What was that like? The moment you realized everything you'd believed was a lie. TLC was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of decades. I was on Chulak. A boy was brought before Apophis, marked for death for the crime of his father's defiance. I had executed such sentences 1,000 times without question. But this child looked at me with eyes that held no fear. Only pity. He said, you serve a false god. When will you be free? What did you do? I killed the child's executioner and fled with the boy to Earth, TLC said simply. I destroyed my life, my position, my certainty. I became traitor to my people and enemy to my God. But I became free. And eventually, I helped my people become free as well. He turned to face Adama directly. You ask what the moment was like. It was like dying and being reborn. Every certainty shattered. Every loyalty questioned. But on the other side of that death was truth. And truth, Commander, is worth any price. In the rear compartment, Dr. Lamb, beamed up with a medical kit after Mala had established a link with Prometheus, was treating Apollo and Chief Tyrol. Starbuck hovered, her usual bravado stripped away by seeing her wingman bleeding. Apollo gritted his teeth as Lam cleaned the staff weapon burn, the tissue cauterized but still requiring treatment. "You're lucky," Lam said, her hands efficient and gentle. "Staff weapons cauterize as they burn. You won't bleed out. But the tissue damage is significant. No flying for at least a week." "I've flown with worse," Apollo said. "Not in this outfit, you haven't," Lam said firmly. "Major Carter would have my head if I cleared you for duty with injuries like this. You ground yourself or I ground you. Choose." Starbuck snorted. "I like her." Chief Tyrol was in worse shape. 3 ribs cracked, possible internal bleeding, concussion from the impact. Lam had him on painkillers and monitoring, but his eyes tracked everything happening on the ship with an engineer's need to understand. "The ring transporters," Tyrol said, his voice strained. "How do they work without dematerializing us like the gate?" It felt different. Faster. Different technology, Lam explained while checking his vitals. The gate converts you to energy and transmits through a wormhole. Rings use Asgard-derived beaming, matter stream conversion on a localized field. Similar principle, different execution. Less traumatic to the body, shorter range. "Asgard," Tyrol repeated. "The little gray aliens. Your allies." "We're our allies," Lam corrected, her expression darkening. "They're all gone now. Genetic degradation finally caught up with them. They gave us their entire knowledge base and then, ended themselves. All of them. Every Asgard in existence." The compartment went quiet. Starbuck spoke first, her voice uncharacteristically soft. "How do you deal with that? An entire species choosing extinction?" "You honor their sacrifice," Lam said. "You use their gifts wisely. You make sure their legacy means something." She finished bandaging Apollo's shoulder. "You survive. Because they didn't have that choice, but we do." In the cockpit, Daniel and Mitchell had managed to establish communication with Stargate Command. General Landry's voice crackled through the Teltac speakers, distorted but comprehensible. "Repeat, SG-1, what is your status?" "We've been monitoring the situation from Prometheus. The Hatak in orbit is a concern." "We're alive, sir," Mitchell reported. "Civilians have casualties. We've secured a Teltac and made contact with a Free Jaffa officer who claims the System Lords are allying with the Ori. Commander Adama and his people performed well under fire. But we need extraction and reinforcement for P3X-774. The Deadless is 3 hours out," Landry said. "They were conducting patrol operations in the sector. BC-304 should be more than a match for a single Hatak, even if it decides to fight. But Mitchell, about this alliance between Goa'uld and Ori, we need confirmation. The Tok'are have heard rumors, but nothing concrete." "I can provide confirmation," Mala said, leaning toward the communication crystal. "I am Mala, formerly First Prime to you. I witnessed the meeting personally. The Ori prior came to Baal. They offered power, advanced technology, protection from Earth in exchange for Jaffa warriors and Nequata resources. Baal accepted. Other surviving System Lords followed. The alliance is real." Silence from Landry. "Then, how many System Lords are we talking about?" "7 that I know of," Mala said. Baal, Amaterasu, Pelops, Kali, use former underlords. Small fish compared to the old empire, but with Ori backing, they become significant threat. In general, the Ori are teaching them how to build their own Ori-class warships. "Frack," Landry said, the profanity rare from the general. "That changes everything. Those ships can take on BC-304s one-on-one. If the Goa'uld start fielding them. Mala, we need you to debrief at SGC. Everything you know about this alliance." "I will cooperate fully," Mala said. But I require something in exchange. Asylum for the freed Jaffa from Ares' forces. They chose truth over slavery today. They deserve protection. Granted, Landry said without hesitation. We've settled free Jaffa communities before. They can integrate with the existing population on. Wait, we have a tactical situation developing. The Hatak is moving. Sensors show it's powering weapons and descending to bombardment orbit. Target is P3X-774. They're going to glass the settlement. Adama was moving before conscious thought, pushing into the cockpit. How long until they're in position to fire? 8 minutes, Mala said, checking sensors. Death gliders are launching. They will strafe the settlement first, then the Hatak will bombard from orbit. Standard Goa'uld suppression tactics. No survivors. Can this ship fight? Adama demanded. This is a cargo vessel, Mala said. Minimal weapons. Against a Hatak mothership, we would be vapor in seconds. Then we don't fight, Vala said, appearing in the cockpit doorway. We run. Cloak, get out of range, let Deadless handle it when they arrive. That's 3 hours, Adama said. Those people will be dead in 9 minutes. 30,000 people on that planet, Carter said, her voice tight. We can't save them all. The math doesn't work. So we save who we can, Starbuck said. She'd followed Adama forward, leaving Apollo to Lamb's care. How many can the ring transporters move at once? 5, maybe 6 at a time, Carter calculated. And we'd need to be in low orbit, nearly in atmosphere. It would take hundreds of trips to evacuate even the settlement. We don't have time. Then we buy time, Adama said. Mala, can you fly this ship? I have piloted Teltax for 70 years. Good. Adama looked at Mitchell. Your BC-304s have Asgard beaming technology. Wide area transport. Civilian evacuation capability. Deadless is 3 hours out, but if we can keep that Hatak from bombarding until they arrive. You want to play bait, Mitchell said. Draw the mothership's attention, keep them focused on us instead of the planet. Our Vipers did it against base stars 100 times, Starbuck said. Small, fast target draws fire, gives the big guns time to arrive. This isn't a Viper, Vala pointed out. This is a cargo ship. We have one staff cannon and hope. Then we use cunning instead of firepower, TLC said. Goa'uld are arrogant. They believe their technology superior, their tactics proven over millennia. We exploit that arrogance. Carter was already running calculations on a tablet. If we decloak near the Hatak, make them think we're attacking, they'll focus defensive fire on us. Hataks are slow to maneuver. If Mala flies well, we can stay ahead of their main weapons. Death gliders are the problem. They'll swarm us. Let them, Adama said. Every glider chasing us isn't strafing civilians. Every moment that Hatak wastes shooting at us is another moment those people stay alive. Landry's voice cut through the planning. Commander Adama, I appreciate the courage, but you're not under my command. I can't order you on a suicide mission. You're not ordering, General, Adama said. I'm volunteering. We came through your gate to see how Earth protects its allies. Now we're going to help protect them. Ty appeared in the cockpit, his face set in the expression Adama had seen 1,000 times, resignation to impossible duty. Bill, this is insane. We're in a stolen cargo ship about to engage a warship that outguns us by orders of magnitude. We should wait for Deadless. 30,000 people don't have 3 hours, Adama said. We do. So say we all, Starbuck added. Mitchell looked at his team. Daniel nodded. Carter was already calculating attack vectors. TLC simply said, indeed. All right, Mitchell said. SG-1 has done stupider things. Probably. Maybe. Vala. "Oh, this is definitely top 5 stupidest," Vala said cheerfully. "But I've always wanted to see if a Teltac could outfly a Hotak. Let's find out." Mala's fingers moved across the controls. "I will require co-pilot. Someone who understands atmospheric combat and evasive flying." "That's me," Starbuck said, sliding into the co-pilot seat. "I've flown Vipers, Raptors, heavy raiders I stole from Cylons. Let's see what a Goa'uld cargo ship can do." "You will not enjoy this," Mala warned. "Story of my life," Starbuck said. The Teltac dropped cloak and dove toward P3X-774 at maximum thrust, engines screaming. Below, the settlement was scattered across the valley, people trying to flee to the forests, militia taking futile defensive positions against death from above. Above, the Hotak mothership detected the unexpected threat. Its weapons ports opened like the eyes of an angry god. And between them, one small cargo ship flown by 2 pilots who'd learned their craft in different wars screamed toward impossible odds. 3 hours, Adama said quietly. "We hold for 3 hours. Or die trying," Ty muttered. "That too," Adama agreed. The first plasma barrage from the Hotak turned the sky into fire. The Teltac's hull screamed as Mala threw the ship into a dive that violated several laws of physics and possibly good sense. Plasma bolts from the Hotak's main batteries carved through space where they'd been milliseconds before, close enough that sensor readouts spiked red with proximity warnings. "Gliders incoming," Carter shouted from the sensor station. 12 contacts, attack formation. "I see them," Starbuck said, her hands dancing across the Goa'uld controls with the instincts of someone who'd learned to fly in combat and never stopped. The interface was alien, the response curves different from Viper stick and throttle, but flight dynamics were universal. "Mala, can this thing do a split S?" "A what?" "Invert and dive." "Now." Mala's hands moved without questioning. The Teltac rolled belly up and plunged toward the planet's atmosphere, using gravity as an ally. Death gliders screamed past overhead, their swept wings and predatory profiles designed for intimidation as much as function. They were faster than the cargo ship, more maneuverable, and they knew it. "They're coming around," Daniel reported, gripping a support beam as the ship shook. 30 seconds to weapons range. In the rear compartment, Apollo was strapped to a medical gurney beside Chief Tyrol, both of them experiencing the worst kind of helplessness, wounded warriors forced to trust others with their survival. Apollo watched the ceiling bend and flex with each evasive maneuver, calculating G-forces, recognizing the patterns of atmospheric combat even from his horizontal perspective. "Starbuck's flying," he said to Tyrol. "How can you tell?" Tyrol groaned, his ribs protesting every maneuver. "Because we're still alive and she just pulled something that should have torn the wings off." Apollo smiled despite the pain in his shoulder. "That's my wingman." In the cockpit, that wingman was discovering the limits of Goa'uld engineering. "This thing handles like a pregnant cow. The control response is garbage." "It is a cargo vessel," Mala said, her own hands compensating for the ship's sluggishness with a pilot's instinct born from decades in these craft. "Not designed for combat maneuvering. But I have flown worse." "Name one thing worse than this." "A Hotak with damaged steering crystals during a replicator attack while carrying symbiote larvae that threatened to escape their containment if I pulled more than 3 gs." Mala yanked the controls, sending them into a corkscrew that shed velocity in a way that made everyone's stomach relocate. "This is luxury by comparison." The death gliders opened fire. Staff cannons stitched plasma across space, brilliant orange bolts that turned darkness into a light show of attempted murder. Most missed. The Teltac was small, erratic, and flown by 2 pilots who understood that predictability was death. But one bolt clipped the port engine housing, alarms shrieking as systems hemorrhaged power. "Port engine at 60%, Carter reported. "Compensating, but we're losing speed." "Then we use the planet," Starbuck said. "Atmosphere. Dense air. Friction. Everything that makes these gliders harder to control. Mala, can this ship handle re-entry? Yes, but the cloak requires too much power. We will be visible to the Hatak. We're already visible, Adama said from behind them. They know exactly where we are. Question is whether they're willing to follow us into atmosphere or wait for the gliders to finish us. Mitchell was on the communication system, relaying position to Daedalus and coordinating with Prometheus, which was moving to support but still hours away. General Landry, we need that evacuation to start. The settlement's got maybe 20 minutes before the Hatak gets impatient and bombards anyway. We're working on it, Landry's voice crackled with interference from the planet's ionosphere as they descended. Prometheus is launching F-302s. They'll provide air support, buy you time. But Commander Adama, the general's voice carried new weight. President Roslin is here. She wants to talk to you. Roslin's voice cut through the static, and Adama heard the steel beneath her politician's calm. Bill, you have 50,000 people depending on you in this fleet. You're not authorized to get yourself killed over 30,000 strangers. Madam President, Adama said, watching the death gliders dive after them through the cloud layer, we came to this universe asking for help. These people are giving it. If we're not willing to pay that forward, what does that make us? Alive, Roslin said bluntly. Which matters more than philosophy when, static swallowed her words as the Teltac hit turbulence. They broke through clouds into atmosphere proper, the sky above them an alien double sun azure, the ground below rushing up at terminal velocity. Mala pulled them level at 3,000 feet, engines screaming, the hull heating from friction. Behind them, the death gliders followed. But in atmosphere, with air resistance and gravity and all the complications of flying in actual weather, their advantage diminished. Starbuck grinned. Now we're playing my game. She and Mala flew the Teltac through a canyon system that opened up east of the settlement, terrain Starbuck had memorized during their earlier approach, pilot's instinct cataloging every landmark for potential tactical use. The gliders followed, their plasma cannons firing in bursts, but canyon walls disrupted their formation, forced them single file, negated their numerical advantage. Staff cannon is ready, TLC reported from the weapons console. But I have limited firing arc from this position. Don't need you to hit them, Starbuck said. Just need you to make them angry. Fire on my mark, Mark. TLC unleashed the Teltac single-staff cannon in a sustained burst backward, not aimed to kill, but to antagonize. Plasma splashed across the lead glider's cockpit shielding. The pilot jerked in surprise, overcorrected, clipped a wing on the canyon wall. The glider cartwheeled into 3 others behind it. 4 explosions painted the canyon in fire. 8 gliders remaining, Carter said. But they're calling for backup. The Hatak is launching more fighters. How many more? Mitchell asked. 36. Well, frack, Starbuck muttered. Adama made the commander's calculation, the math that separated victory from martyrdom. Time to Daedalus arrival. 2 hours, 40 minutes, Carter said. We can't last that long, Mala said, her voice admirably calm for someone flying a damaged cargo ship through a hostile planet's atmosphere pursued by superior forces. The Teltac will fail before then. Structural integrity, power reserves, pilot exhaustion, something will break. Then we make sure we break in the right place, Adama said. He pointed at the tactical display showing the settlement. That Hatak is still holding bombardment orbit. They want us first. Every minute we stay alive is a minute those people use to evacuate. We don't need to win. We need to not lose long enough for Daedalus to win for us. So we fly in circles and hope we don't die, Vala summarized. Typical Tuesday. But the universe had other plans. The communication system crackled with a new voice, accented, female, urgent. Unknown vessel, this is the Free Jaffa ship Krishna. We detected Goa'uld forces engaging near P3X 774. We are inbound to assist. Hold position. TLC's expression shifted, not quite hope, but something close. Krishna is a Hatak captured during the liberation of Tirana. Crew of Free Jaffa. Led by Captain Tolok. If they are truly inbound. One Hatak versus another, Mitchell said. That evens odds considerably. Assuming they're real, Ty said, paranoia never resting. And not more enemies wearing friendly faces. The answer came in the form of a hyperspace window opening at the system's edge. A Hatak mothership emerged, pyramid design identical to the enemy, but its hull bore the symbols of the Free Jaffa nation instead of System Lord glyphs. And it was accelerating toward P3X-774 at maximum sublight. The enemy Hatak detected the new arrival immediately. Its priorities shifted, the Teltak was wounded prey, but another Hatak was a pure threat. The bombarding ship broke orbit, climbing to engage the Free Jaffa vessel, Death gliders recalled to provide escort. They're disengaging. Carter said. The pressure's off. Negative, Mala corrected. 8 gliders still pursue us. The Hatak commander is arrogant but not stupid. He leaves forces to finish us while engaging the real threat. Starbuck pulled the Teltak into a climb, seeking altitude and maneuver room. But the port engine was failing, power fluctuating, and the gliders were closing fast. We need help. We need. F-302s screamed through the atmosphere from high orbit, 12 of Earth's fighters dropping on the Death gliders like hawks on sparrows. The Goa'uld pilots never saw them coming. Advanced human fighters with Asgard-enhanced weapon systems engaged at ranges the gliders couldn't match. 4 gliders died in the first pass, their pilots still believing they hunted easy prey when they became it. This is Captain Warren, Prometheus Fighter Wing, a voice announced over the comm, SG-1, we've got your backs. Break off and let us clean up. You've done enough. But Mitchell was looking at the tactical display, watching the Free Jaffa Hatak engage the Goa'uld vessel in orbit. Watching plasma batteries exchange fire, shields flaring, the ancient ritual of capital ship combat playing out in vacuum. Mala, who wins that fight? Unknown, Mala said. Both ships are equally matched in firepower. It depends on crew quality, shield management, tactical positioning. It could take hours. We don't have hours, Adama said. That Goa'uld commander knows he's on a clock now. If he can't win quickly, he'll break off and escape to hyperspace. But before he does, he'll bombard the planet anyway, Carter finished. Scorched Earth. If he can't hold the world, he'll make sure nobody can use it. Krishna needs our help, TLC said. 2 ships against 1. We could provide supporting fire, target-specific systems. With what? Vala asked. Our 1 staff cannon. That's like attacking a tank with a slingshot. Then we don't attack, Daniel said. Everyone turned to look at him. He adjusted his glasses with that nervous gesture that preceded insight. We board. The Goa'uld don't expect ground assault from a cargo ship. We ring transport onto their Hatak, sabotage from inside. It's crazy enough they won't anticipate it. It's crazy enough to get us all killed, Mitchell said. But his tone carried consideration, not rejection. How would we even get close enough to use ring transporters without being blown out of space? Sharon, Boomer, Valerie's voice cut through the discussion from an unexpected source, the rear compartment. The Raptor pilot had been quiet since beaming aboard, letting the chaos wash over her, but now she spoke with the confidence of someone who'd run blockades. You use a distraction. Something that makes them look the wrong way while you approach their blind spot. Everyone turned to stare at the Colonial pilot. Apollo, still strapped to the gurney, spoke for his shipmate. Boomer's got more successful infiltration runs than anyone in the fleet. If she says there's an approach vector, there is. Boomer moved forward, studying the tactical display despite having minimal training on Goa'uld systems. But warfare translated across species. The Hatak is focusing forward, All its weapons, batteries and attention on the Free Jaffa ship. Its sensors are saturated with combat data. If you approach from directly below, following the engagement axis, you can mask your energy signature in the interference from weapons fire. The teltac is small enough to slip under their notice until we're in ring transport range, Carter finished. She looked at Mitchell. It could work. It's insane, but it could work. SG-1 specializes in insane, Vala said. But we're 8 people, one of whom can barely stand. She gestured at Apollo and Tyrol. Even if we board successfully, a Hatak carries hundreds of Jaffa warriors. We can't fight our way through that. We do not need to, TLC said. Most of those Jaffa do not yet know their god is false. But they will question when they see me. When they see proof that the Goa'uld lie. I can turn them. I have done so before. Mala nodded. And I carry symbiote poison. The device I used on Ares. I have 3 more charges. If we reach the Peltac, the command deck, and kill the Goa'uld commander, the Jaffa will lose coordination. The Free Jaffa ship can then destroy them or force surrender. Adama ran the numbers, made the calculation every commander made when the math demanded sacrifice. How many people do you need for this boarding action? 4, maybe 5, Mitchell said. Small team, fast insertion. Me, Carter, TLC, Daniel as negotiator if we turn the Jaffa. Mala for the symbiote poison. And 1 colonial, Adama said. Sir, you're the commander of the fleet, Apollo protested from his gurney. You can't. I can, and I will, Adama cut him off. Colonel Tai will assume fleet command if I don't return. Captain, you're wounded and that's an order. He looked at Mitchell. Your team has the experience, the knowledge, the skills. But this is my first operation with SGC. If we're building an alliance, I need to see how you work in the worst conditions. And you need to see that Colonials don't ask others to take risks we won't share. Mitchell studied him for a long moment, then nodded. All right, Commander. Welcome to SG-1's traditional suicide mission. Try not to die on your first one. It's bad for team morale. Starbuck had the Teltac already turning, dropping altitude to begin the approach run that would take them beneath the battling Hotaks. You boys have fun storming the castle. Try to leave some Jaffa for me to shoot next time. Kara, Apollo said quietly. His wingman looked back, met his eyes. Whatever conversation passed between them happened in silence, the language of pilots who'd saved each other too many times to count. I'll bring him back, Starbuck said. You better, Apollo said. Mala plotted the approach while SG-1 geared up, P-90s, Zats, grenades, the practiced efficiency of people who'd boarded hostile vessels before. Adama checked his borrowed weapons, feeling the unfamiliarity of Earth combat gear, the weight distribution different from colonial body armor. TLC offered him a staff weapon. It is easier than your P-90 for one not trained. Point and fire. The weapon does the rest. I'm trained enough, Adama said, adjusting the P-90 strap. I just need to know where to aim. At anything that glows, Vala suggested helpfully. Glowing eyes means Goa'uld. No glowing means possibly salvageable Jaffa. The Teltac climbed into the battle space, flying through the geometric patterns of plasma fire that painted vacuum in impossible colors. The Free Jaffa Hatak was holding its own, but damage reports showed shields failing, hull breaches opening. They were dying up there to buy time for the planet below. Time for 30,000 people who'd never asked to be caught between ancient enemies. Time for refugees from another universe to prove they deserved the sanctuary they'd been offered. Ring transport range in 30 seconds, Mala announced. I am targeting the Peltac directly. Aggressive insertion. Is there any other kind? Mitchell muttered. Adama stood with SG-1 in the ring transport area, feeling the weight of command, of duty, of the impossible choices that defined leadership in any universe. Below, on P3X-774, people were evacuating. Above, in orbit, free Jaffa were dying. And here, in a stolen cargo ship flown by warriors from 3 civilizations, 5 people prepared to board an enemy vessel and somehow convince its crew that their gods were lies. So say we all, Adama whispered. Indeed, TLC agreed. The rings descended from above, brilliant light engulfing them. And then they were somewhere else, somewhere hostile, surrounded by enemy warriors who didn't yet know they were about to have a very bad day. The fight for the Hatak began. The rings deposited SG-1 and Commander Adama directly onto the Peltak, the command deck of the Hatak. For one frozen heartbeat, both sides stared at each other in mutual shock, 5 intruders materializing out of nothing, and a dozen Jaffa warriors who'd been focused on the space battle outside. Then the universe remembered violence was an option. TLC moved first, his staff weapon discharging before the nearest Jaffa could raise his own. The warrior went down, chest smoking. Carter dropped to one knee, P-90 chattering in controlled bursts, 3 round patterns into center mass, the drill so practiced it was muscle memory. 2 more Jaffa fell. The Goa'uld commander spun from the command throne, eyes flaring gold with stolen power, hand raising the ribbon device. Mala threw her symbiote poison sphere with the precision of decades of combat. It attached to the Goa'uld's chest, discharged violet energy. The parasite screamed, an inhuman sound that came from the host's throat but belonged to something that had never been human. The symbiote tried to evacuate, writhing out through the host's neck, but the poison was already killing it. The snake thing convulsed on the deck and died. The host collapsed, free for the first time in years, gasping with the shock of suddenly possessing his own body again. The remaining Jaffa froze, watching their god reduced to a dying worm on the floor. Adama saw the moment their certainty cracked, that instant when belief collided with empirical evidence and shattered. Jaffa Cree. TLC's voice boomed across the Peltak. Your god is dead. A parasite wearing a man's face. You have served lies. The Goa'uld are false gods. You are slaves who think themselves servants. But you can be free. One Jaffa, older, with the tattoo of a System Lord's personal guard, stepped forward, staff weapon leveled at TLC. You are Chauvier. Traitor. You abandoned the gods. Why should we believe you? Because you see proof before you, TLC said, gesturing to the dead symbiote. Because you have lived your entire life carrying a larval Goa'uld in your belly, told it grants the favor of gods. But it is merely a parasite that prolongs your life and enslaves your will. I carried one for over 100 years. I was first prime to Apophis. I killed in his name. I believed. His voice carried absolute conviction born from absolute truth. I was wrong. And I will not let others suffer the lie I lived. The older Jaffa's staff weapon trembled. Adama recognized the internal warfare, duty versus doubt, belief versus evidence, the comfortable lie versus the uncomfortable truth. He'd seen it in his own people when they learned Earth existed but wasn't theirs, when comfortable certainties about their universe dissolved. The free Jaffa nation exists, TLC continued. Millions of warriors who threw off the System Lord's chains. We have allies, the Tauri of Earth, who destroyed Ra, Apophis, Anubis, and cast down the Empire. We offer you choice. Lay down your weapons and join us. Or die defending a lie. Daniel stepped forward, hands visible and empty. The Goa'uld implanted the first symbiotes in humans thousands of years ago. They called you Jaffa, the incubators for their young. They made you dependent on the larvae so you could never leave. They built your entire culture around serving them, worshipping them, dying for them. But you're human. Like us. Like them. He gestured to the freed host, who was weeping quietly, processing decades of lost memories. You deserve freedom. The older Jaffa looked at his comrades. Silent communication passed among them, warriors who'd fought together, bled together, believed together. Then, slowly, he removed his serpent helmet. I am Torre C, first prime to the parasite that wore Lord Khonsu's name. His voice cracked on the admission. We have heard whispers. Stories from other Jaffa. That the gods are mortal. That TLC the Chauvier speaks truth. We did not want to believe. He looked at the dead symbiote. But proof is proof. He set down his staff weapon. Around him, 11 other Jaffa did the same. The sound of weapons hitting deck plating echoed in the sudden silence. What would you have us do? Torre C asked. Help us save P3X-774, Carter said, moving to the command console. This attack is bombarding a civilian population. 30,000 people who never wanted to be part of your war or ours. Help us stop it. We are warriors, not pilots, Torre C said. The Peltac crew operates these systems. Were guards. Then you're about to learn, Carter said, her fingers already moving across the crystalline interfaces. Mala, I need you on weapons. Torre C, get on ship-wide communication. Tell the other Jaffa their god is dead and they have a choice. TLC, help me route power from the ventral batteries to forward shields, the Free Jaffa ship is taking too much fire. Commander Adama, Mitchell said, we need to secure engineering. There will be more Jaffa throughout the ship, and not all of them will surrender as easily. Lead the way, Adama said. They moved through the Hotax corridors with Torre C and 3 of his warriors as guides. The ship's architecture was alien, organic curves, crystal interfaces, lighting that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. They passed alcoves where more Jaffa stood at stations, monitoring systems, maintaining the ship's operations. Most laid down weapons when they saw Torre C. Some required TLC's explanation. 2 attempted to fight and died quickly, believing their lie unto death. But the majority chose truth when confronted with undeniable evidence. How many Jaffa total on this ship? Daniel asked as they secured another section. 200, Torre C said. But many are off-duty, in Kelnorim meditation or quarters. They do not yet know what has occurred. The ship shuddered, weapons fire from the Free Jaffa Hotak, or internal systems failing, Adama couldn't tell. They reached what Torre C identified as the power distribution chamber, the Hotak's equivalent of an engine room. It was vast, dominated by a glowing Naquata reactor that pulsed with barely contained energy. Half a dozen Jaffa engineers were trying to reroute power, shouting at each other in Goa'uld. They spun at the intrusion, weapons coming up, but Torre C spoke first. Rapid-fire explanation in their language. Adama watched their faces cycle through disbelief, anger, and finally resignation. All but one. A young warrior, maybe 20, barely old enough to have carried his symbiote for more than a few years, raised his staff weapon with shaking hands. Lies. The gods are eternal. Lord Khonsu blessed us with. Lord Khonsu is a parasite that died on the Peltac deck, Torre C said wearily. I saw it with my own eyes. I killed in its name for 40 years. It was all lies, Kartek. All of it. No. The young Jaffa's staff weapon tracked toward Adama, the closest target. I will not. Apollo's voice crackled over Adama's comm unit, transmitted from the Teltac. Dad, sensors show power surge in your location. Are you? The staff weapon discharged. But Mitchell had moved faster, his P-90 already aimed, firing a burst that took the young Jaffa in the shoulder before he could complete the shot. The warrior went down, wounded but alive. His staff weapon clattered across the deck, the bolt he'd fired scorching the bulkhead where Adama had been standing. Secure him, Mitchell ordered. Get him medical attention. He's a kid who just had his entire worldview shattered. That's trauma, not treason. They bound the wounded Jaffa's hands, tended his injury with the supplies SG-1 carried. Kartek stared at them with confusion that transcended language, enemies who should have killed him instead bandaging his wound, showing mercy that false gods never did. Why? He asked in broken English. Why spare, when I tried to kill? Because we're not gods, Daniel said gently. We're just people. And people can choose to be better than those who enslaved you. Back on the Peltac, Carter had stabilized the ship's systems with Mala's help. The tactical situation was still critical. The Free Jaffa Hatak had taken heavy damage, shields failing across multiple sections. But with the captured Goa'uld vessel no longer firing on them, the equation changed. Torresi, I need you to broadcast on all frequencies, Carter said. Tell every Jaffa on this ship and every Jaffa on the Free Jaffa vessel what happened here. Tell them their god is dead and they're free. Torresi spoke into the communication system, his voice carrying across two ships, across the void between them, across the centuries of lies. Adama heard the translation from Daniel, warriors of Khonsu, this is First Prime Torresi. Our god has fallen. The Goa'uld are parasites. We have been deceived. The Free Jaffa nation speaks truth. We are free. We choose freedom. Lay down your weapons and join your brothers. Silence answered. Then, across both ships, weapons powered down. Jaffa warriors emerged from their stations, removing helmets, laying down arms. Not all, some chose to fight, some chose death, some escaped in death gliders to carry word to other system lords. But the majority chose truth. The Hatak designated Khonsu's Fury became the latest ship of the Free Jaffa nation. Daedalus is entering the system, Carter reported. Colonel Caldwell is hailing us. He's very confused about why a Goa'uld Hatak is broadcasting surrender on Free Jaffa frequencies. Tell him the situation is under control, Mitchell said. And that he owes Commander Adama a drink for the most successful boarding action I've ever witnessed. I just followed your lead, Adama said. You brought military discipline to organized chaos, Carter said. That's the Colonial Fleet's contribution to this alliance. We bring the crazy plans. You bring the tactical execution that makes them work. Below, on P3X-774, the Daedalus was beaming up survivors. Asgard transporters could move hundreds at once, plucking people from danger and depositing them in the BC-304's cargo bays. Within an hour, every civilian was evacuated, the settlement emptied, the immediate threat eliminated. The cost was visible on the tactical display. The Free Jaffa Hatak Krishna had taken catastrophic damage, hull breaches across 6 decks, power systems failing, crew casualties in the dozens. But they'd held. They'd fought their former brothers, convinced some and killed others, and bought time for Earth's ship to arrive. Captain Tolak is requesting permission to come aboard, Torresi translated. He wishes to meet the Tauri who turned a Goa'uld Hatak in the middle of combat. Permission granted, Adama said, surprising himself with how naturally the command came. This wasn't his ship, wasn't his crew, wasn't even his universe. But leadership transcended boundaries when the situation demanded it. Tolak arrived via ring transport, a scarred warrior who'd clearly seen 100 battles, his face bearing the marks of staff weapon burns poorly healed. He looked at Torresi, at the empty command throne where a false god had sat, at the Tauri and Colonial standing in the Peltac with the easy authority of conquerors. You did it, Tolak said in accented English. You actually did it. Captured a Hatak with 5 people and a cargo ship. 6 people, Starbuck's voice corrected over comm from the Teltac still maintaining orbit. I flew the cargo ship. That counts. My apologies, Tolak said with a slight smile. 6 people and considerable audacity. The Free Jaffa nation will sing of this. TLC, you honor us. It is the Tauri and the Colonials who deserve recognition, TLC said. They risked their lives for a world not their own, people they do not know, in a war they did not start. This is what allies do. Tolak turned to Adama. Commander of the Colonial Fleet. We have heard of your arrival. A Battlestar and refugees from another universe. You fight with the Tauri now? We're learning to, Adama said. Today was our first lesson. Then you have learned well, Tolok said. The Jaffa understand loss. We too fled tyranny, rebuilt from nothing, learned to trust allies who once seemed strange. You will find friends among the Free Jaffa nation. The Peltac's main viewscreen showed P3X-774 below, scarred from battle but intact, its people saved, its future uncertain but possible. 2 Hotaks hung in orbit, no longer enemies but allies united by the simple revelation that gods were lies and freedom was truth. And in the black between stars, the Deadless completed evacuation operations while F-302s patrolled the system, ensuring no other Goa'uld forces arrived to complicate the victory. SG-1, this is General Landry. The communication came through clear now, no interference, no battle static. Situation report. Mission accomplished, sir, Mitchell said. P3X-774 civilians evacuated. 1 Goa'uld Hotak captured and crew converted to Free Jaffa. 0 friendly casualties except the ones we started with. I'm calling this a win. 0 casualties except, never mind, I don't want to know. Landry sounded tired but satisfied. Good work, Colonel. Bring everyone home. President Roslin is waiting for Commander Adama's return. Something about him risking himself without authorization. Looking forward to that conversation, Adama muttered. TLC raised an eyebrow. Your president does not approve of commanders leading boarding actions. My president is dying of cancer and holding our civilization together through sheer will, Adama said. She gets to disapprove of whatever she wants. A wise leader, Tolok said. Treasure her while you can. Leaders who care enough to be angry when you risk yourself are rare. They returned to the Teltac via ring transport, leaving Torre C and the newly freed Jaffa to secure their captured vessel with Tolok's support. The cargo ship's interior felt cramped after the Hotak's vast spaces, but familiar. The space they'd fought from, fled in, somehow survived despite odds that should have killed them. Apollo and Chief Tyrol were both awake, alert, demanding full briefings on what they'd missed. Starbuck was already regaling them with exaggerated stories about her flying while Mala corrected the aeronautical impossibilities with dry precision. The Teltac docked with Prometheus for the journey back to Earth. As they transferred aboard, Colonel Pendergast met them with an expression somewhere between respect and disbelief. Commander Adama, I've been flying Prometheus for 3 years. I've supported SG teams on hundreds of missions. And I can honestly say I've never seen a first-gate mission quite like yours. We specializing in making memorable first impressions, Adama said. Indeed, TLC agreed. Stargate Command's infirmary was too bright, too clean, too much like the hospitals Adama remembered from Caprica before the fall. Apollo sat on an examination table while Dr. Lamb finished dressing his shoulder wound properly, the field treatment replaced with proper medical care. Chief Tyrol occupied the next bed, ribs wrapped, his breathing easier now that painkillers and proper diagnosis had confirmed no internal bleeding. You're both grounded for a week, Lamb said with finality. Captain Adama, that means no flying, no combat training, no strenuous activity. Chief Tyrol, you're on light duty only. If I catch either of you doing anything that makes those injuries worse, I'll have you strapped to these beds until you heal. Are we clear? Crystal, Apollo said, too tired to argue. The door opened, and President Roslin entered with the purposeful stride of someone who'd rehearsed her anger on the walk over. Behind her came General Landry, Colonel Tai, and half of SG-1. The infirmary suddenly felt crowded. Roslin stopped in front of Adama, and for a long moment, she just looked at him. Then she did something he didn't expect, she pulled him into a brief, fierce embrace. Don't ever do that again, she whispered. Then louder, for the room, Commander Adama, you risked yourself on an unauthorized boarding action against a superior force with technology you don't understand. You could have been killed. You could have left this fleet without military leadership in a universe we don't know. That was reckless, dangerous, and completely irresponsible. Yes, ma'am, Adama said. It was also brave, necessary, and exactly what those people needed. Roslin's expression softened fractionally. 30,000 lives saved because you were willing to step through that gate and fight for people who aren't even from our universe. The quorum is divided, some think you're a hero, some think you're a fool. I think you're both. That's fair, Adama admitted. Landry stepped forward, extending his hand. Commander, on behalf of Stargate Command and Earth, thank you. P3X-774 would be ashes right now if you hadn't acted. Your people performed with distinction under impossible circumstances. They learned from the best, Adama said, shaking the general's hand. SG-1 made it look easy. It's never easy, Mitchell said from where he leaned against the wall. We've just gotten good at making it look that way. Commander, you and your people are welcome on any SG team, anytime. You earned that today. TLC inclined his head in agreement. The Colonial Fleet has proven itself worthy allies. The Free Jaffa Nation will remember this day. Speaking of which, Carter said, pulling out a tablet, we need to discuss logistics. The Colonial Fleet needs resources, Tilium fuel, water, medical supplies, parts. We've got planets that can provide all of that through the Gate network. But we also need to talk about integration. Your people have skills we can use. Viper pilots who could fly F-302s. Engineers who understand non-networked systems. Military personnel who bring different tactical perspectives. You want to recruit from the fleet, Roslin said. It wasn't a question. We want to offer opportunities, Landry corrected. Your people are refugees, yes. But they're also warriors, scientists, pilots, engineers. We're fighting a war against the Ori. We can use all the help we can get. In return, we settle your civilians on safe worlds, provide your military with resources and support, and give your fleet a place in Earth's defensive network. Ty spoke up, his voice carrying the skepticism of someone who'd been burned before. What about the Cylons? If they find a way to follow us here, you'll be dealing with our enemy too. Machines that look human, think human, infiltrate perfectly. You prepared for that? We've fought replicators, Daniel said. Artificial intelligence that adapts, evolves, and replicates. We've developed countermeasures, detection methods, containment protocols. If your Cylons show up, we'll face them together. And the Goa'uld? Adama asked. You've got parasites that take human hosts. Our people are paranoid about infiltration after the Cylons. How do we know who's compromised? The TOC-RA can scan everyone, Carter said. Verify no Goa'uld presence. It's standard procedure for refugees. And honestly, Commander, mutual paranoia might be our greatest asset. Your people watch for Cylons, we watch for Goa'uld, everyone stays vigilant. That's not a weakness, that's defense in depth. Dr. Gaius Baltar appeared in the doorway, looking haggard. He'd spent the hours since returning from P3X-774 in consultation with SGC scientists, his mind processing the implications of ancient technology, Naquata physics, and gate network mechanics. Head 6 had been whispering to him constantly, only he could see her, hear her, the silent projection that haunted his fractured psyche. I've reviewed the data on the Stargate network, Baltar announced without preamble. The energy requirements, the crystalline computing architecture, the subspace manipulation. It's beyond anything the colonies ever achieved. We were children playing with toys compared to the ancients. He looked at Landry. If we're going to use this network, I need access to your ancient database. All of it. I need to understand how it works, how it fails, how it can be exploited or protected. That's classified, Landry said. Then classify me, Baltar shot back. I'm the foremost physicist from the 12 colonies. I understand systems the Cylons built because I helped build them. I know networked intelligence, artificial cognition, adaptive systems. If the Ori or the Goa'uld try to weaponize the gate network, you'll need someone who thinks like them. That's me. Roslin gave Baltar a look that could have frozen hydrogen. Doctor, you'll forgive me if I'm hesitant to give someone with your track record access to Earth's most sensitive technology. My track record of what? Baltar demanded. Survival. Innovation. Adapting to impossible circumstances. I kept people alive on New Caprica. You collaborated with the Cylons during the occupation, Ty said flatly. You signed death warrants. You served the enemy. The room went silent. Baltar's face drained of color. I did what I had to do to keep people from being killed, Baltar said quietly. I made impossible choices in an impossible situation. You can judge me for that, Colonel. You can hate me for it. But don't question my commitment to human survival. We won't give you unrestricted access, Landry said, cutting through the tension. But Dr. Lee and Major Carter can work with you on specific projects. Supervised, cleared, and monitored. That's the offer. I'll take it, Baltar said. Starbuck pushed into the already crowded infirmary, still wearing her borrowed BDUs, her hair wild from the pressure helmet she'd been wearing for hours. Did I miss the victory party? Because I flew a garbage scow through a death trap and I think I deserve a drink. It's 0900 hours, Lamb said. Somewhere in this galaxy, it's 2100 hours, Starbuck countered. That's close enough. Vala laughed. I like her. She thinks like me. Dangerously. That's not a compliment, Daniel muttered. Sure it is, Vala said. Landry raised his voice to cut through the chatter. People, we've got a lot of work ahead. The Ori threat is real and escalating. The alliance between System Lords and Ori is confirmed. We need to build a coordinated defense, and that means integrating the Colonial Fleet into our operational structure. Commander Adama, President Roslin, I'm proposing a formal alliance. Earth and the colonies, united against common threats. With terms, Roslin said. The Colonial Fleet maintains autonomy. We're not conscripts or subordinates. We're allies with equal say in strategic decisions that affect our people. Agreed, Landry said. We'll draft formal articles of alliance. Joint command structure for combined operations. Shared intelligence. Resource allocation. Settlement rights for your civilians. Training programs for your military. The whole package. And Galactica? Adama asked. My ship needs repairs, upgrades. FTL drive needs complete overhaul to work in this universe. Prometheus's engineering bay can handle capital ship repairs, Carter said. We've worked on Hatax, Alkesh, Teltax. Goa'uld engineering isn't that different from colonial design philosophies. Both use practical, maintainable systems rather than advanced automation. We can adapt your FTL drive to local physics. Install hyperdrive capability as backup. Upgrade your weapons systems with Asgard-enhanced targeting. Galactica could become one of the most formidable ships in Earth's fleet. While maintaining her identity, Adama said. She's not becoming an Earth ship. She's a colonial battlestar serving in alliance with Earth. Understood, Landry said. Galactica keeps her name, her crew, her traditions. We're not trying to absorb you. We're trying to survive together. TLC stepped forward with the formality of someone making an official pronouncement. The Free Jaffa Nation will also extend alliance to the Colonial Fleet. You fought beside us. You freed Jaffa from false gods. You have earned our respect and our support. Lord knows we need all the friends we can get, Ty muttered. Sharon, Boomer, Valerie had been silent throughout the discussion, standing in the corner, watching. Now she spoke, her voice quiet but carrying. What about screening? You said the talk RA can scan for Goa'uld. Can they scan for other things? Biological anomalies? Genetic markers that might indicate non-human infiltration? The question hung in the air. Adama looked at his pilot, one of his best, reliable, skilled, loyal since before the attacks. But something in her tone triggered his commander's instinct, the same instinct that had kept him alive through decades of service. Lieutenant Valerie, Adama said carefully, are you asking if the talk RA can detect Cylons? Boomer met his eyes. I'm asking if they can detect anything unusual. Because if they can, everyone in the fleet should be screened. No exceptions. Complete transparency. That's how we build trust with our new allies. Agreed, Rosalind said. Everyone gets screened. Command staff first, to set the example. If there are Cylon infiltrators in the fleet, we find them now. Before they can compromise this alliance or endanger Earth. Carter was already making notes. I'll coordinate with the talk RA. Jacob Carter, my father, can facilitate full biometric scans of all Colonial personnel. It'll take time with 50,000 people, but we can establish screening stations on multiple planets, process people in batches. Do it, Adama ordered. And Carter, when you scan Lieutenant Valerie, I want to be there personally. Boomer's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Of course, Commander. The meeting broke up, people dispersing to their duties. Landry returned to coordinating relief operations for P3X-774. SG-1 headed to debriefing. Rosalind took Baltar to meet with the quorum of 12, who were demanding answers about the commander's unauthorized heroics. Adama remained in the infirmary with Apollo, Ty, and Starbuck. His son was falling asleep on the examination table, exhaustion and painkillers finally catching up. His XO was drinking from a flask that had somehow appeared from nowhere. His best pilot was studying a star chart of the Milky Way with hungry eyes. This is insane, Ty said. Allying with Earth. Fighting false gods. Walking through magic rings to other planets. This isn't what we signed up for. We signed up to protect the colonies, Adama said. The colonies are gone. Now we protect what's left, 50,000 people who need us to make impossible alliances work. What do you think is wrong with Boomer? Starbuck asked quietly. That was weird. Her asking about screening. I don't know, Adama admitted. But we're going to find out. Through the observation window, they could see the gate room. The Stargate stood silent now, waiting for the next activation, the next mission, the next impossible journey to worlds unknown. Technicians moved around it with practiced efficiency, maintaining the device that had become humanity's greatest asset and greatest vulnerability. Somewhere in the fleet, scattered across this star system under Earth's protection, 50,000 colonial refugees were learning they'd found sanctuary in a galaxy at war. Children who'd lost homes were being settled on new worlds. Pilots who'd flown Vipers were being trained on F-302s. Engineers who'd kept Galactica running with spare parts and prayers were seeing technology that made their best systems look primitive. And in the depths of the fleet, hidden among the survivors, a Cylon sleeper agent named Sharon Valerie sat alone in her quarters, staring at her hands, feeling the programming beginning to wake. Soon she would know what she truly was. Soon the truth would destroy everything she thought she knew about herself. But not today. Today, the Alliance held. Today, the colonies and Earth stood together. Today, Commander William Adama had led his people through an impossible gate into an impossible universe and found something he'd thought lost forever. Hope. On the peltac of Khonsu's fury, now renamed Kobal's Truth by Torre C and his freed Jaffa, the warriors who'd learned their gods were lies looked at star charts and wondered what freedom would feel like. They'd spent lifetimes serving parasites. Now they would learn to serve themselves. The Ori crusade continued in distant sectors, priors spreading their poison gospel, warships burning worlds that refused conversion. The alliance between system lords and ascended beings grew stronger, more coordinated, more dangerous. But Earth had new allies now. Warriors from another universe who'd survived their own apocalypse and learned to adapt. Who brought fresh tactical perspectives, different ways of fighting, new reasons to resist. The war was far from over. The battles ahead would cost lives, demand sacrifices, test every alliance and every oath. But they would face it together. Tauri, Jaffa, and Colonials. United by the simple truth that freedom was worth any price, that false gods deserved no worship, and that humans, regardless of which universe they came from, would never stop fighting for the right to choose their own destiny. Commander Adama stood in Stargate Command's observation gallery, looking down at the device that had changed everything. Chevrons silent now, but ready. Always ready for the next mission, the next crisis, the next impossible choice. "So say we all," he whispered. And somewhere in the Milky Way galaxy, in a universe that wasn't his but had become home anyway, the stars waited. Thousands of worlds accessible through ancient rings of metal and mystery. Some hostile, some friendly, all unknown. The Colonial Fleet had found Earth. Not their Earth, but an Earth that fought, that survived, that welcomed refugees and turned them into allies. It was enough. It had to be enough. The alliance between Earth's Stargate Command and the Colonial Fleet was formalized 3 weeks later in a ceremony that brought together Tauri, Free Jaffa, Tok'ra representatives, and colonial leadership. Galactica floated in Earth orbit, her hull bearing new scars from the P-3X-774 engagement, but her systems upgraded with Asgard-enhanced shields and hybrid hyperdrive technology that married colonial engineering with ancient principles. The screening process revealed 5 Cylon infiltrators among the fleet, including Sharon, Boomer, and Valerie, whose programming activated during the Tok'ra scan. The confrontation nearly tore the alliance apart until Boomer herself asked to be studied, to help Earth understand the Cylon threat, to prove that even programmed machines could choose differently than their creators intended. She remained in containment, neither fully trusted nor fully condemned, a living reminder that identity was more complicated than biology. SG-1 integrated colonial personnel into their operations. Starbuck flew her first F-302 combat mission against a Goa'uld and declared it almost as good as a Viper. Apollo recovered from his injuries and took command of the Colonial Fighter Wing, coordinating with Earth's F-302 squadrons. Chief Tyrol worked with SGC engineers to reverse-engineer colonial non-networked computing systems, creating hybrid technology resistant to both Cylon infiltration and replicator adaptation. The Ori crusade reached Earth 6 months later. Priors arrived preaching origin, offering conversion or destruction. They found a galaxy more united than they'd expected, Tauri, Jaffa, Tok'ra, and Colonials standing together, refusing to kneel to new gods when they just finished killing the old ones. Galactica fought in the Battle of P-3Y-229 alongside Daedalus and 3 Free Jaffa Hotaks against an Ori warship. The battle lasted 4 hours. The Ori ship was destroyed, though the cost was terrible, 1 Hotak lost, Daedalus crippled, Galactica's hangar deck reduced to vacuum and fire. But they held. They survived. Commander Adama stood on Galactica's repaired CIC months after that first gate transit, watching his crew execute a mission with Earth forces to liberate a Jaffa world from Ori occupation. The chevrons locked on his view screen, transmitted from the planet's surface. The gate activated. SG-1 reported mission success. They'd saved another world. Another civilization. Another group of people who just wanted to be free. It wasn't the Earth the Colonials had searched for. It wasn't the 13 colonies of scripture and prophecy. But it was real. It fought. It welcomed them. And in a universe full of false gods, ancient evils, and existential threats, the Colonial Fleet had found what mattered most, a place to stand, allies to stand with, and a mission worth fighting for. The gate would activate again tomorrow. Another mission, another world, another impossible choice. But they would face it together, Colonials and Tauri, refugees and defenders, warriors united by the simple truth that freedom was worth protecting across any distance, through any gate, in any universe. So say we all. Indeed. Hit the subscribe button for more interesting stories.